He's the heir to the demon throne, a ruthless prince who wouldn't blink twice before obliterating an entire bloodline. But his reward for being so totally hardcore, getting banished straight to the human realm. Now he's trapped in the absolute nightmare of playing a completely average high school. The catch, his demonic aura flares up whenever raw evil is near. And let's just say humanity is absolutely swimming in it. So much for keeping a low profile. He constantly gets sucked into total chaos, forced to ignite his forbidden magic in the one dimension where it's strictly off limits. Rewind to the day the demonic prince Ravis Vindica painted the Hilt clan's fortress red. As the final survivor choked on his last breaths, he spat out a vile curse. The dying demon choked out, "Do you honestly think you can just massacre us and walk away?" Ravis didn't even flinch. He coldly stared back, asking if the pathetic scum really believed he was blind to the Hilt clan's filthy secrets. This wasn't some random bloodbath. This was an official Vindica execution. With a sickening crunch, Ravis snuffed out the final life. But going fully rogue like this came with a massive price tag. Ravis was instantly dragged out in chains and shoved to his knees before the ultimate boss, his own father, Demon King Gamadr Vindica. The king was absolutely furious. His voice boomed across the hall, demanding to know how his son had the sheer audacity to pull such a reckless stunt. Gamadr blasted him for being an ignorant brat, roaring that he sent him to gather hard proof of treason, not to wipe a whole faction off the map. By shattering the fragile peace of the underworld, Ravis had officially crossed the line. But our boy wasn't having it, snapping back with absolute defiance. "The proof has been staring you in the face," Ravis barked. He reminded his father that everyone knew the Hilt clan was nothing but a pack of treacherous snakes. The only reason they hadn't been dealt with sooner was because the king was too busy playing nice with the fossilized. He viciously called out the king, asking just how much blatant corruption he was willing to blindly ignore. The surrounding nobles glared daggers at the prince, while Gamadr coldly stated that lawful executions required zero tolerance for rogue vigilantism. The king dismissed his son's bloody crusade as petty nonsense. Ravis just let out a dark, mocking laugh. "This is a joke," he sneered. "In our world, the blackest shadows swallow the rest." "Isn't that the only rule that matters down here?" Gamadr said absolutely nothing, his gaze lethal. But Ravis was already spiraling, screaming out, "How can the Vindica name rule the underworld if we're too terrified to embrace the slaughter?" He aggressively pointed out what everyone already knew, that the entire demonic food chain was currently being hijacked by corrupt elites. Looking down at his son with heavy disappointment, Gamadr called his brutal tunnel vision completely pathetic. Ravis spat back that wiping the Hilt bloodline from existence was the only way to protect their throne. Those scumbags were plotting a full-blown coup anyway. He demanded to know why he was even sent as an inquisitor in the first place. If his own father was just going to cower behind politics and let the real traitors slide. Once again, the Demon King gave him dead silence. Finally, Gamadr exhaled a soul-crushing sigh. Talking to this arrogant brat was pointless. The verdict was already locked in. Standing in unison with the 12 black thrones, the king's voice shattered the silence as he dropped the ultimate hammer. For trashing underworld law and massacring the Hilts, the prince was hereby exiled to the mortal realm. Ravis felt his stomach drop. His eyes blew wide open. "Are you freaking kidding me?" he gasped. But the king was dead serious. He declared that Ravis would rot in the human world, totally stripped of his magic, until he figured out how to act like a true, dignified ruler of the Vindica bloodline. Oh hell no. Our guy was definitely not accepting that trash tier He lunged forward, desperately yelling at his father, swearing that, yeah, sure, he butchered the Hilt, loyalists, but he left their souls completely intact. But Gamadr was done listening. He signaled the 12 elders, ordering them to execute the banishment. The council swarmed him, charging up massive spell circles, as Ravis thrashed wildly, screaming that this trial was pure garbage. "Back off! Stop this right now!" he roared. He refused to be thrown out like trash when he did exactly what needed to be done, but his pleas hit a brick wall. Out of nowhere, one of the elders, flashing a sickening smirk, Bambay told him to enjoy his pathetic mortal vacation, whispering that he'd be taking extremely good care of. Ravis unleashed a blood-curdling roar of pure rage before the hellish vortex completely swallowed him alive. Just like that, the undisputed Prince of Darkness was officially deported to Earth. But survival came with ironclad rules. Rule 1, play along, and live the life of whatever meat suit you possess. Rule 2, no rage quitting early. And Rule 3, absolutely zero human casualties. Break a single rule, and your soul gets permanently deleted. Suddenly, Ravis bolted upright, in a random bed, screaming his lungs out in absolute panic. But the burning agony was gone. Gasping for air, he stared down at his shaking, fragile human hands, the horrifying reality finally crashing down on him. Grinding his teeth in pure fury, he slapped his own cheeks hard. "Unfreaking believable," he hissed, utterly disgusted that he was actually stuck in this pathetic mortal dimension. "Banbei, you dead man walking." He swore that he was going to rip that traitor's horn straight off his skull. But mid-threat, a massive wave of nausea hit him. Wait, why did this weak little human body hurt so damn much? He dragged himself to his feet, staring at his trembling hands. Was he seriously locked inside this pathetic meat suit? Those absolute clowns from the Hilt clan were completely useless right up to the bitter end. The air in this place was so thick it felt suffocating. Was there an open sulfur pit around here or what? Suddenly the bedroom door squeaked open. The little sister of this body's original owner peeked inside, investigating the commotion. Spotting him on his feet, her eyes instantly welled up with heavy tears as she let out a breathless gasp, crying out that he was finally awake. She completely threw herself into his chest, sobbing about how insanely relieved she was. She honestly thought he was a goner. Ravis just stood there totally paralyzed, thinking, who the heck is this random girl? Some kind of relative. Right on cue, the mom. Seo Juhee rushed in. She screamed out for Minho. Apparently that was this kid's name. And totally broke down, crying, thanking the heck. She wailed about the absolute agony he must have been in. Our guy was completely lost, having zero clue how to handle this messy emotional baggage. To him, the human realm was literally one of the 3 major layers of hell. Could he even survive in this dump? Then the heavy footsteps of the patriarch Jung Tae-sik echoed into the room. He shot an icy, calculating glare at his son, ignoring his weeping wife, who was desperately trying to explain that Minho had just opened his eyes. The man stayed dead silent, piercing the kid with a razor-sharp stare, before snapping at him to shake it off and drag himself to class tomorrow. He'd been rotting in bed for an entire week, so he had a mountain of catching up to do. With that cold dismissal, he turned on his heel. The mom chased after him, begging him to realize Minho was still way too fragile, but the dad just barked at her to drop it. The kid was awake, end of story. Watching this play out, Ravis was actually mind-blown. As the sister nervously asked if he was okay, Ravis couldn't stop thinking about that brutal, unforgiving look. He actually kinda respected the guy's ruthless vibe. Turns out some humans practically radiate pure demonic energy. A wicked grin accidentally slipped onto his face, totally creeping the little sister out, before he caught himself and quickly wiped the smirk away. He had to admit that dark energy felt right at home, but he needed to play it cool until this host body's memories fully unlocked. Fast forward to the next morning school time. Juhee dropped him off at the gates, frantically reminding him that if he even felt slightly sick during lectures, he better call her instantly. He hopped out of the ride, giving a dry nod of goodbye while she watched his back with heavy anxiety. Scanning the massive campus, he scoffed. Back in the Underworld, he hadn't stepped foot in a filthy academy for over 600 years. And being stuck in a teenage human high school, absolute torture. But then again, this entire dimension was basically a dumpster fire. He tracked down his homeroom, slumped into his desk, and scoffed at how these frail mortals couldn't even clock a single century of life. He decided to lay low to protect his fragile soul. Wiping out the Hilt clan had bought him a solid breather. So, his only mission now was finding a ticket back to the Abyss to claim his father's blazing throne, especially since the Vindica royal bloodline was hanging by a thread. Suddenly, 2 upperclassmen casually strolled up from behind. The leader of the duo, Taiho, flashed a toxic grin, loudly pointing out that the local punching bag was finally back from the dead. Ravis slowly turned his head, shooting them a deadpan glare. The punk heavily clamped a hand on his shoulder, smirking as he demanded the protection cash that had piled up while he was out sick. Instantly, Minho's body violently flinched in pure terror, a reflex Ravis definitely didn't trigger himself. Like a broken dam, the original host's repressed memories violently crashed into his brain. Flashes of getting brutally jumped, mocked, and laughed at while he, the absolute victim, just took the brutal hits and sobbed on the floor. The missing puzzle pieces clicked. His bones weren't aching from illness, it was all from these absolute scumbags. Taeho ruthlessly smacked him across the back of the head, taunting him for cowering like a scared dog. Weren't they best bros after all? He mocked how insanely pathetic Minho had gotten. Keeping up the humiliating slaps, the bully yanked out his phone, barking that since it had been so long, he needed to bow down respectfully and cough up the overdue late fees instantly, as a token of their unbreakable bond. The demon prince was genuinely paralyzed. His brain literally couldn't process the sheer disrespect of being struck. A memory flashed back to his own demonic academy days, sitting in a lecture hall learning about human anatomy. A fellow demon had violently gagged, calling humans absolutely repulsive, spineless creatures that probably reeked of garbage. Professor Cynthia had coldly agreed. Mortals were boundlessly disgusting parasites, willing to pull any dirty trick just to mask their pathetic fragility. Plus, they were totally brain dead, literally praying to both angels and demons at the exact same time. Back then, Ravis had casually mentioned that such clowns deserved to be tossed straight into a bonfire, earning a solid nod of approval from his teacher. If he ever crossed paths with one, he was ordered to crush them like a bug. Snapping back to reality, his knuckles turned white with explosive rage. How dare this bottom feeder even lay a finger on royalty? In a split second, he violently grabbed Taeho by the hair and brutally smashed his face straight into the wooden desk, confirming that humans really were dangerously dense. Taeho shrieked in absolute agony, cursing him out and begging him to let go, while his lackey, Sunyan, furiously lunged at our guy, screaming at the top of his lungs about whether he had a literal death wish. Ravis's dormant demonic aura flared up in a heartbeat. The demon whipped around just as the bully hurled a heavy punch straight for his jaw. yelling that since he just crawled out of his deathbed, was he eager to get sent right back to the grave? But Ravis read him like an open book, effortlessly weaving through the sloppy attacks with a dark smirk. So, human trash talk literally triggers his magic. Catching onto this glitch, he channels that raw energy and absolutely decks the bully right in the jaw, launching the guy backward until he slams violently into the steel lockers. The whole classroom instantly freezes jaws, dropping in pure shock. Meanwhile, our boy just stares down at his own knuckles, his mind racing. In this mortal realm, his demonic powers were supposed to be locked up tight, yet somehow, sheer human hostility was sparking his mana. Breaking the dead silence, Shion, his timid classmate, calls out, voice shaking, questioning if this absolute beast was actually the quiet Minho he knew. Suddenly, the first punk recovers, grabbing a steel chair and lunging forward for a blindside attack. Shion screams out a warning. Without missing a beat, our MC pivots on his heel and plants a devastating kick straight into the attacker's ribs, instantly emptying his lungs. The punk gasps out pathetic curses as he chokes for air. Ravis just scoffs. He knows humans only bark loud to cover up how fragile they really are. Let them yap, every insult just buffs his stats. Winding up for the finale, he delivers a brutal knee straight to the guy's chin. As the strike connects, he realizes the root of all this toxic human garbage. Traces right back to his so-called mother. Following that the bully crumbles to the floor, knocked out cold right next to his buddy. The classroom erupts into frantic whispers. No one can believe the school's punching bag just folded Tae and Seongyuk like cheap lawn chairs. Amidst the swirling gossip, our MC just stands there, flashing a wicked smirk. He silently mocks his father's previous advice to stay low-key. Sweeping his icy gaze across the terrified room, he dares anyone else to step up and talk trash. Come on, make his day. The students are practically paralyzed. This wasn't the total pushover they were used to. Watching from the sidelines, Shion is absolutely mind-blown by this insane power-up. Taking a nervous step forward, the kid stammers out to ask if he's unhurt. A dark, amused grin spreads across Ravis's face. He remembers this wimp trying to warn him earlier. Honestly, the kid's got solid lackey potential. Dropping his voice to a chillingly calm register, he assures Shion he's perfectly fine. Fast forward to the late afternoon. The final bell rings. As the duo walks off campus, Shion is totally fanboying, hyping up how insanely badass that solo beatdown was. It was straight up legendary. He jokingly asks if Minho got isekai'd as an overpowered main character. That specific word makes our MC freeze, instantly sweating bullets. Did this human actually crack his cover? False alarm. Shion is just a massive nerd obsessed with Murim leveling systems and webtoons. Shooting his new minion a hardcore side-eye, Ravis realizes he was paranoid over nothing. This close call triggers a quick flashback to a recent chat with Bombay. The guy had laid down the ultimate ground rule: catching a body in the human realm equals instant death for a demon. Confused Ravis had brought up teacher Cynthia's philosophy about totally crushing cynical humans. Bombay quickly shut that down, explaining she was just yapping. Demons can't just treat mortal lives like disposable trash. After all, Reapers hold the monopoly on death. Our MC argued back, pointing out that humans are constantly finding ways to waste each other anyway. But Bombay just brushed it off, saying mortals are idiots by design. Ravis hadn't taken the warning seriously at all, even when the demon hammered home the ultimate consequence. Dropping a human means getting your very soul permanently deleted. Back then, Ravis just shrugged it off like it was nothing. He was a high-tier demon, and he swore he'd never set foot in this miserable mortal realm. But fate pulled a massive Uno reverse card. Staring up at the fading sky, he grinds his teeth. If icing these punks is off the table, how exactly is he supposed to keep them in check? Interrupting his dark thoughts, Shion mutters how sick it would be. If reincarnation wasn't just fiction, he'd give anything to wake up in a different reality. Catching a whiff of the kid's aura, Ravis smells nothing but pure suffocating misery. Shion forces a bitter laugh, admitting the whole fantasy is pure copium. He knows damn well exactly how much hell he had to swallow before totally breaking. Mentally exhaling, the MC is just relieved his demonic identity is safe. But when Shion genuinely calls him cool again, Ravus physically cringes. A mighty demon getting hyped up by a fragile human? Absolutely humiliating. Fast forward to nightfall. He's chilling on his bed, ready to crash for the night. Looking back whenever those lowlifes projected their hate onto him, his sealed mana definitely flared up. It makes zero sense. A demonic soul trapped in a frail meat suit shouldn't be able to cast a single spell. So, what's the glitch? A cocky grin spreads across his face. Simple. He is Rabus Vindica, and rules don't apply to him. But mid-flex, a blinding, agonizing pain tears through his nerves. He collapses back onto the mattress, gasping. This pathetic human hardware is way too fragile to handle his demonic software. It's literally day one of his mortal life. And his body is already paying the ultimate toll. He dramatically whines that the agony is going to keep him up all night. Cut to literally 1 second later, he is out cold, snoring like a baby. The sun rises, the grind repeats, and before long, the final bell signals the end of the school day. leaving the campus with his new minion trailing behind. Xion excitedly bubbles about finally experiencing a normal, peaceful day. He looks at our MC like a literal savior. Thanks to that insane beatdown, the bullies didn't even breathe in their direction. Ravis just rolls his eyes, letting out an annoyed huff. Honestly, it would have been way better if those scrubs tried to jump him again. He was itching to test drive his new magic. But suddenly a voice cuts through the crowd calling his name. He spun around only to find Tao rolling up with a whole squad of schoolyard goons. Turns out the crybaby snitched to his crew and wanted payback. The top dog of the pack stepped up, demanding to know if Ravis was the one who laid hands on his little bro. These thugs had been acting as Tao's personal bodyguards in exchange for some sweet extortion cash, so naturally they had to collect on that blood debt. Xion practically shook out of his shoes, terrified. But Ravis, he was absolutely buzzing. A fresh brawl was exactly what he was craving. Flashing a completely unhinged grin, our boy admitted he totally wrecked him. The gang leader ordered him to follow them, and honestly, Ravis couldn't wait. They pulled up to an abandoned construction site, and the head thug instantly started flaming Tao. "I told you not to let anyone push you around, and here you are crawling back looking like absolutely trashed garbage." Tao just whimpered, begging his older bro for mercy. Then the punk locked eyes with our MC, acting all conflicted about what to do next, claiming that if he just let this slide, he'd go down as the absolute worst older brother in history. For letting his sibling get clapped, he aggressively jammed his finger right into Ravis's forehead, mocking him. "Did your mommy teach you to beat up?" Ravis just smirked, casually dropping that, "Yeah, she actually did." The bully forced out a strained laugh, calling him a total psycho, then cocked his fist back, roaring if Ravis thought this was some kind of joke. The guy threw a wild haymaker, but our MC effortlessly snatched his wrist right out of thin air. Ravis simply zoned out, thinking about how getting cursed out in his mother's name was honestly kinda nostalgic. He tightened his grip on the guy's arm with so much insane force that a sickening snap echoed through the lot, followed by a blood-curdling scream. The thug desperately thrashed around, trying to break free, but he was trapped, and Ravis lunged straight at him. His mind drifted back to his almighty, terrifying mother. The woman who literally injected venom into people's words before absolutely burying his fist into the bully's face. He just kept raining down remembering her dark life lessons. Violence crushes the flesh, while toxic words rot the very soul. And these pathetic losers were practically begging for a taste of that darkness. Tao and his crew started screaming out for their leader in pure panic. Bleeding, the boss shrieked at his boys to stop freezing up and jump this freak already. Ravis just tilted his head. "Oh, so we're doing squad battles now? Even better." His eyes flared with a menacing glow as he blitzed right into the crowd. After all the more malice he absorbed, the faster his demonic power would level up. He instantly dropped every single one of those thugs with crisp one-shot knockouts straight to the jaw, leaving Xion totally speechless. A few minutes later, the so-called fight, honestly it was just a one-sided massacre, finally came to an end. Ravis let out a deep dramatic exhale, gazed up at the clouds through his arms wide open, and declared he was finally feeling refreshed. He mused about how his uncle blessed humanity with the art of violence, and while his mother single-handedly invented trash talk. Now he completely understood why the higher-ups let humans throw hands in the first place. He reached toward the heavens, shouting out his gratitude while Xion frantically tried to check if he was okay. But Loki, this whole time a rat was spying on them from the shadows. And not just some street rat, but a literal demon familiar. Everything the creature witnessed was being live-streamed straight to his uncle Varkan. Bizentim Bonbei gloated that his mission went down without a single glitch. The monstrous overlord was absolutely thrilled watching his sweet little nephew. He casually rested his heavy boot right on top of the lesser demon's skull, chuckling that the kid definitely seemed to be enjoying his welcome gift. Banbei smirked, mentally patting himself on the back for secretly implanting a demonic bloodstone straight into Ravis's eye socket instead of the restraining stone. He silently wondered how long the kid could even survive it. Varkan boomed with laughter, admitting he was genuinely stunned that the psycho actually managed to solo the entire Hilt clan back home. Bonbei chimed in, pointing out that Ravis was a total menace who would never stop grinding until he claimed his rightful throne. Varkan agreed, noting that absolutely nothing could shatter the boy's titanium ego even after King Gamadare ruthlessly without batting a single eye. Cold-blooded behavior at its finest. Banbai chimed in, stating that absolute crushing force was the only way to tame trash like that. After all, that was the ultimate motto of their glorious demon king. Varkan flashed a sinister grin and whispered that only the absolute worst sinners, the ones too toxic even for hell itself, got dumped into the human world. Ravis was definitely in for a brutal reality check. When did that little punk grow up and become such a beautiful disaster? He mused. Bombay curiously asked if that was the real reason he hooked him up with the bloodstone. Hovering his clawed hands over a dark basin, the lackey announced that the surveillance system was fully primed to spy on their favorite mortal sinner. Varkan smirked, ordering him to pull up the feed. The lesser demon threw his hands forward, flooding the basin with a swirling toxic energy packed with the silhouettes of lurking nightmare creatures. He warned that since Ravis was now walking among humans, he was bound to trigger an all-out war with these earthly demons sooner or later. Varkon slowly stood up from his throne, manipulating the dark aura into a condensed glowing orb, his mind entirely fixated on his rogue nephew, practically drooling over the thought of the kid finally breaking under the weight of true inescapable despair. Fast forward a bit, our MC and his loyal sidekick were already chilling inside a random street food joint. As they aggressively slurped down some fire-spicy teokbokki, Xian was fanboying extremely hard, begging for a play-by-play of the fight. He couldn't believe his boss actually clapped Tao's terrifying older brother. Dude, that was insane. Literal main character energy, he hyped. Ravis just barked a laugh, gasping, "Is this what humans call hellfire? This spice level is a total joke." Xian, he leaned in and asked, then why are you literally sobbing right now?" Ravis snapped back, calling him an absolute idiot. "It's not tears you—" Xian pushed back, reminding the guy he literally told him to stick to the beginner difficulty. But our guy stubbornly inhaled the fiery food anyway. After all, what kind of demon runs from a little hellfire? Right on cue, a phone buzzed. The caller ID flashed Jae-hee, and Xian's face instantly drained of all color. The MC immediately clocked the vibe, asking what was going on. Ignoring the buzzing screen, Xian scrambled to his feet, threw out a weak excuse about an emergency, and booked it out of there. But the MC caught the violent tremor in his hands. Yeah, something was definitely off. Cut to black. Deep in some shady underground tattoo parlor, a dude was screaming his lungs out. Jae-hee coldly ordered him to stop squirming, or things would get incredibly messy. She sneered, reminding him that if he had just coughed up the cash on time, she wouldn't be stuck doing all this annoying overtime. Buzzing machine clicking off, flashing a twisted smirk, she praised his clear skin and how perfectly it took the ink. Carved dead center on his forehead, the word thief. A heavy voice echoed from the doorway. Her goon had arrived, dragging a violently shivering Xian right into the den of the beast. Annoyed Jae-hee complained about the delay before commanding Xian to step up and check out her newest masterpiece bleeding on the couch. She violently gripped the kid's jaw, forcing him to stare directly at the mutilated debtor. "Peel your eyes open," she hissed. "Do you grasp what this means?" It was the ultimate brand of shame. The trash on the couch ghosted his debts, So, what's the deal with him? Is the arrangement actually moving forward? Tell me everything's locked in, without taking his eyes off the inscription. He stammered out a pathetic excuse. There are always hiccups, he whispered. Smack. She backhanded him so hard he completely ate the floor. "Do I look like I'm playing games with you?" she hissed. Snatching up a buzzing tattoo gun, she glared down at him. "Why is this so hard for your tiny brain to process?" Instantly, her heavy hitters pinned his arms down, trapping him. She yanked his wrist up, the needle hovering inches from his skin. "Should I just ink the memo straight into your flesh? And maybe then you wouldn't forget." He practically begged for his life, pleading with her to stop. Her gaze turned ice cold. "Then open your ears and listen. This is your absolute final warning. You don't want to end up like that other loser, do you? Follow my orders and get the prep done right." Later that night, Xian dragged himself home. He slumped into his gaming chair, just staring blankly at the glowing monitor. His fingers literally shook as they hovered above the keys. Should I actually go through with this? He panicked, desperately gripping his own wrist to force his hands still. But the reality was grim. If he bailed now, he was totally cooked. Swallowing his fear, he locked in and started typing. Meanwhile, Ravis was absolutely fighting for his life against a stomachache. He writhed on his bed, kicking his legs just to distract himself from the sheer agony. So this is what zero spice tolerance feels like, he thought miserably. His gut was basically on fire, and his entire body felt like it got hit by a freight train. One tiny brawl and his shoulders were literally ready to snap. Tearing off his shirt, he dropped straight to the floor for push-ups. Ravis Vindica does not fold over some pathetic muscle cramps. He swore right then and there to upgrade this absolute trash tier body no matter what it took. Pain is just a mindset. Cut to the next morning at school. Xian was nervously gripping a USB drive, sweating over how insanely sketchy this app was. Jae-hee's psycho threats echoed in his head, sending his anxiety straight through the roof. Out of nowhere, our boy Minho rolled up. He casually dropped a hand on Xian's shoulder, making the poor guy literally shriek in terror. "Bro, chill, what's got you so jumpy?" Minho asked, totally confused. Xian looked up, a wild idea sparking in his brain. Could Minho actually bail me out of this? But he instantly shut that thought down. Sure, Minho had massive glow-up energy now, but messing with Jae-hee was a literal death wish. He absolutely refused to drag Minho down with him. While Ravis stood there trying to read Xian's totally panicked vibes, a mysterious girl named Sunghai just casually strolled right past them. Instantly, a crazy familiar scent hits him. Before he can even process it, she violently trips, face-planting straight onto the hard floor, like she is completely knocked out cold. Panicking, Xian instantly sprints over to help. He frantically flips her onto her side, but what he sees sends shivers down his spine. She is literally drooling with this creepy, unhinged smile. Even with her nose completely busted, she keeps grinning. Suddenly, her body starts violently convulsing, and our guy feels it. A dark, suffocating, demonic energy pouring right out of her. Like, how is a regular human giving off straight-up demon vibes? Hearing the chaos, the teacher bursts into the room desperately asking what happened, but gets zero response. Grabbing her, he hauls her onto his back and bolts toward the nurse's office, blasting right past Ravis. In that split second, Ravis locks eyes on her arm. A tattoo. The Hilt family crest. Why on earth does a human have that? Knowing something is totally off, he decides to investigate. As night falls, he heads straight to the hospital where Sung-hae was admitted. Rolling up to her ward, the female cop guarding the door stops him dead in his tracks, asking if he is actually friends with Sung-hae. She needs absolute quiet, so the guest list is 0. Our MC pivoted, locking his gaze dead on hers, plunging her mind into instant darkness. The hex hit hard. Her eyes rolled back as she slumped into her spot, completely zoned out and totally unresponsive. Pushing the door open, he smirked. Even running on absolute fumes, he could still pull off some wild parlor tricks, at least for a little while. He stepped inside, and the heavy click of the door snapping shut made Sung-gi snap her head up. Annoyance dripped from her face. "Who the hell are you?" she snapped. He just threw it right back. "Who is she?" Totally lost, she flared up, furious that some random guy just kicked her door down without a shred of an invite. Bam! In a flash, he snatched her wrist, yanking her violently into his space. She shrieked, whining about the pain, but his eyes were glued strictly to the fresh ink on her skin. "How does absolute trash like you dare to brand yourself with the Hilt family crest?" he growled. Shaking, she stammered out that he was sounding utterly insane. Leaning in closer, he dropped a chilling threat. Spill every single detail about her true identity right now, or things were going to... His lethal glare had her completely paralyzed, cold sweat dripping down her neck. Her eyes darted to the massive horned shadow looming just behind him. Is that a literal demon? She thought, totally terrified. She stuttered out absolute gibberish until he barked at her to use her words. That just spiked her anxiety through the roof. Whimpering, she swore up and down she had zero clue what that symbol even meant. He told me," she cried. "She said if I wanted to run with their crew, I had to. She even promised to hook me up with those heavy-duty diet pills if I did it." Ravis narrowed his eyes, the sickeningly sweet scent wafting off this girl. He knew that smell. He'd caught that exact stench before. Back in the demon realm, a flashback hit him, 2 kids, him and Bambi, slipping into the dark tower. As they crept down the spiraling stairs, Bambi was completely freaking out. "Dude, we are so not supposed to be here. This place is hardcore off limits." The MC just shot him a cocky smirk, calling him a massive wimp. That sparked Bambi's temper. "I'm not scared," the kid shot back. "I just really don't feel like getting skinned alive." Ravis casually locked his hands behind his head. "Then bounce," he threw back effortlessly. Bambi froze, his feet glued to the floor. I don't want to do that either." Leaving Ravis completely unsupervised was a recipe for absolute disaster. Swallowing his fear, Bambi glanced down into the abyss, wondering just how much deeper this hellhole went. Hitting the absolute bottom, they marched straight down a suffocatingly tight hallway. The dead silence stretched on for what felt like hours until Bambi broke the tension. "Hey, did you know about this?" Ravis didn't even look back. "No clue. Spit it out and maybe I will." The kid cleared his dry throat. "So, you know how it's basically pitch black down here?" It reminded me of this crazy legend about beings whose eyesight completely shattered the limits of their own species. Word is there are exactly 2 ways they go permanently blind. Option A, their retinas get totally torched by some insanely blinding flat. Or option B, their eyes literally rot away in absolute suffocating darkness because there's zero light to process. Kind of exactly like this place. "Shut it!" the MC suddenly hissed, chopping his hand through the air. Peeking into a massive cavernous room, he whispered, "Something is in there." Dead center of the stone floor was a crumpled corpse totally buried underneath a morbid blanket of exotic blooms. Bambi recoiled in horror. "Bro, what the actual hell is that?" Fearless Ravis strutted right up to the bizarre scene, waving for his buddy to check it out. Bambi hung back, panicking that this was a massive trap. But peer pressure won out. Creeping closer, the duo finally got a crystal clear look at the dead guy's face. Bambi's jaw dropped. "Wait, is that Jeremy Hilt?" Judging by the complete lack of a pulse, this clown is long gone, the MC deadpanned. But his eyes immediately drifted away from the corpse, locking onto the vibrant petals. The sickest part. The stems were literally sprouting straight out of Jeremy's flesh. Ravis reached down to pluck one. "Dude, do not touch that garbage!" Bam. Too late. With a wet squelch, he ripped the bloom right out by its bloody roots. Instantly, a gut-wrenching, rotting stench exploded into the air. Bambi instantly ducked behind Ravis's back, trembling like a leaf. Staring at the horrific plant, Ravis watched the bloody roots wriggle and squirm like a nest of dying worms. "No freaking way," he muttered. "These are devouring flowers." Snap back to reality. Ravis was inhaling that exact same putrid scent, rolling right off this pathetic girl. Sung-gi was practically vibrating. Ignoring her cries, the MC shot a cold glare out the window. Suspended upside down on an oak branch was a creepy bat, spying on his every move. Somewhere its dark master smirked, knowing their brutal clash was inching closer. Let him wait. He was more than ready for the bloodbath. Shaking off the stalker, Ravis immediately hit the streets, making a beeline. Posting up right outside the neon-lit entrance, his mind was racing. A teenager flashing the elite hilt family crest while reeking of demon world devouring flowers. No way in hell was this just— Cut to a grimy underground basement where a crew of thugs was marching through the shadows. The hot topic Shion. Why was boss Young Moo so unbelievably obsessed? It's not the kid he wants, one of the goons. It's that insane digital app the little nerd coded. Whipping a shiny piece of hard candy out of his pocket, the thug smirked. Are we seriously using this kind of high-tech gear now? Spotting the glowing treat, the rest of the gang totally froze. Yo, is that a blue bow? Yo, lay off that stuff, one thug warned, side-eyeing the latest batch of Young Moo's stash. Didn't you hear how badly Jusong tweaked out yesterday? Since it was a fresh drop, the side effects were bound to be sketchy as hell. But the guy just shrugged. He literally could not care less. All that mattered was the insane rush he was feeling. Right then, our boy Ravis stepped out from the shadows of the alley. He locked eyes with the crew. There it was again, that same sickening stench matched with that familiar hilt tattoo. The thugs instantly froze, sizing. Let me guess, Jin Jae-hee inked you up too? Ravis asked. The punk rocking a blue bow sneered, calling him a clown. What, you her little boyfriend or something? Smirking, the thug mockingly patted Ravis on the cheek. Watch your mouth when you're talking to your elders, kid. Big mistake. Ravis's eyes went absolutely cold as he violently slapped the guy's hand away. In a flash, Ravis delivered a brutal hook to the punk's jaw, instantly dropping him cold. Seeing their boy hit the concrete, the rest of the crew lost their minds. Who the hell sent you? One of them barked. Ravis let his fists do the talking, smashing a heavy blow straight into the loudmouth's face. The impact sent him flying backward, while another thug screamed absolute murder and charged right at him. He threw a wild haymaker that completely whiffed, but Ravis's counter was terrifyingly precise. One calculated strike, and the dude slammed into the dirt. Left with no options, the last standing thug whipped out a switchblade and lunged. Ravis spun on a dime, launching a devastating roundhouse straight into the guy's skull with bone-crushing force. I'll ask again. Where is Jin Jae-hee? Ravis demanded. But behind him, the very first punk he knocked out was already stirring. Dragging himself up, the punk rasped that he was going to rip him apart. But something was seriously off. He looked entirely feral. His eyes were practically popping out of his skull. Ravis flinched, utterly shocked. Had the demonic energy actually spiked this much? Without warning, the rabid thug pounced at him like a wild animal, and Ravis instantly noticed that even the freak's movements were horribly twisted. That weird candy hadn't just messed with his head, it massively boosted his physical stats. Ravis tried to backstep, but hooked his foot on an unconscious thug's leg and crashed. The unhinged beast leaped onto him like an absolute maniac. As the freak wound up for a lethal punch, Ravis cursed nervously under his breath. Cut to Jae-hee. She was trembling as she approached her boss, quietly admitting that the app still wasn't ready. She frantically apologized, swearing that her crew promised they had explained everything perfectly, and it would be up and running any second. Young Moo just rubbed his temples, looking insanely exhausted by her excuses, muttering that they gave him that exact same line last time. And to make matters worse, his guys had just busted the rat stealing their blue bows. Stripped down and shivering next to Jae-hee, the naked thief sobbed in absolute humiliation, crying out that he messed up. He groveled pathetically, desperately, begging the boss for just one more chance. He swore on his life he'd never cross them again. Young Moo completely ignored his pleading, his cold gaze shifting to the blue flowers sitting quiet. He slowly pulled the stems from the water and stalked toward the traitor. The thief stared up, his eyes wide with absolute terror, practically choking on his own tears. Reading Young Moo's twisted intention, he started shaking his head like a maniac, shrieking for him to stop. Without blinking, Young Moo swung his arm in a brutal arc, driving the jagged, sharp stem of the flowers straight deep into the guy. The guy instantly froze. A single bloody tear slid down his pale cheek as he let out a sick, gurgling wheeze. Jae-hee watched, utterly paralyzed by pure horror. Miraculously, the thief choked out one final plea for his life, but Young Moo was completely dead inside. He ripped his arm back and delivered another merciless strike, and a blood-curdling screech echoed through the room. Crimson splattered violently across the floorboards as the thief collapsed, writhing and wailing in pure agony. I don't do second chances, Young Moo stated, his voice dangerously calm. He scanned the room to make sure everyone caught the memo. He then locked his dead eyes on Jae-hee. Are we on the same page? She gulped, practically tasting her own fear. He ordered her to cut the useless chatter and finally deliver what she owed him. Trembling, she avoided his gaze, absolutely terrified that looking at him would be her death sentence, and whispered that she had it all under control. The second she stumbled outside, she pulled out her phone, frantically spam-calling Xion, but it kept ringing straight to voicemail. Meanwhile, Xion was completely locked in, coding away at his setup. Noticing his screen lighting up, he stopped typing and finally answered. Except it was Ravis on the line. Our MC, Andy bluntly stated that he had planned on cracking this, but the local street punks weren't exactly in a sharing mood. Cheyenne was totally lost until Ravis dropped a massive bombshell. "You know Jin Jae Hee, don't you?" Panic immediately spiked in Cheyenne's chest. He started grilling Ravis, demanding to know how he knew that name. Ravis just played it cool, casually dropping that he simply saw her name pop up on a screen. He then pressed Cheyenne for her home address. Cheyenne was totally stressed out now, asking why the hell he was trying to track her down. Did those underground freaks drag him into their mess too? Ravis shut that theory down real quick. He explained he was the one looking for her because he needed to verify some shady stuff. He was literally standing right inside her tattoo parlor, but the place was a total ghost town. As he spoke, his eyes locked onto a stray cat chilling on the stairs. The second it met his cold stare, the animal visibly over on the other end, Cheyenne was already sprinting for the door, frantically throwing on his hoodie. He screamed at Ravis to stay put and not touch a single thing, swearing he was on his way. Before Ravis could even reply, Cheyenne hung up the phone. Ravis slowly turned his attention back to the furball. The creature was acting way too sketchy, almost like something sinister just pretending to be a cat. Closing the distance, he snatched the thing right up by the scruff of its neck. "You can understand every word I'm saying, can't you?" he demanded. The creature let out a fake nervous meow, but Ravis wasn't buying the act. His voice dropped to a dangerous growl, ordering the demon to drop the act. The terrified feline practically jumped out of its fur, blurting out actual human words, and our boy instantly grilled the furball for answers. First a rat, yesterday a bat, now a straight-up cat. Spilling the tea, she confessed to being a spy, straight out of the demon realm. Her whole gig was tracking the runaway convict under the radar, hence the creepy stalking. But our MC wasn't buying it. Her dark aura felt way too pathetic. Like, is she even a real fiend? When she questioned how she blew her cover, he hit her with the cold hard truth she was literally chilling on two back paws, like a whole human. The realization slapped her out of nowhere, leaving her totally shook. Ravis just scoffed, deciding this low-level minion wasn't worth the breath. Flexing his raw magic, he commanded the puppet master, pulling her strings to step into the light. Instantly, the cat's eyes rolled back, going completely dead inside. Cut to Banba flashing a wicked smirk. He totally didn't expect his little trap to get sprung this fast. He mocked our guy for catching on so quick, but our MC just snapped, calling him a total clown and demanding to know if he orchestrated this whole circus. Banbei just hit back with fake hurt, asking why he was acting so toxic toward his absolute bestie. Meanwhile, Ravis was mentally calculating what kind of chaos. Of course, the mastermind played completely dumb. Realizing dodging questions was his whole brand, Ravis let out a massive exhausted sigh. Fine pivot to plan B. Nothing here matched his memories anyway. He fired off the real question. How on earth is a fugitive casting spells in the mortal realm? The voice cryptically warned that rule breakers exist everywhere. He bragged that our hero would uncover the ugly truth soon enough without any spoilers. Got any more burning questions? The MC cut right to the chase, revealing he caught the heavy sickening stench of the soul-devouring blossom, suffocating this dimension. It was the exact same foul odor from his past. A cursed plant so insanely lethal, it was strictly banned even in the darkest pits of hell. Yet it was blooming right here on Earth. Banbai casually dropped that the Underworld elites were already hyper-aware of the notorious Hilt blood. Those monsters had been leaking into the mortal world like a virus, proving way too stubborn to be totally wiped off the map. Losing his patience, Ravis growled, asking, did their dark magic actually survive the crossing? Banbai just burst out laughing, dropping the bomb that Earth isn't the basic helpless place it used to be. It has morphed into a massive playground for wild conspiracies, and our boy had crashed the party at the absolute perfect moment. Basically, he dumped the cleanup job right onto his lap. Ravis demanded to know what the heck was going down, but his so-called buddy ghosted him. The magical connection completely flatlined. As the kitty snapped back to reality, he shot at her a furious death glare and muttered a string of curses under his breath. Smash cut to Jae-hee, absolutely spam-calling Cheyenne. She was low-key, hyperventilating, screaming at her screen that the clock was ticking down, and this fed up, she aggressively punched in another contact, swearing that Xian's career was officially cooked. The guy on the other end, Song Jun, was currently holding down the fort over in the coding lab. The second he picked up, she barked orders for him to drop everything and sprint straight to the main office. They were going on a manhunt to drag that absolute moron Cheyenne back. Flashback to Ravis cornering the cat. If she's a legit recon agent, she's got to know the streets of Earth, inside and out. She puffed out her chest, bragging that she totally did. Her whole entire existence revolved around hunting down escaped convicts one by one, which meant she was constantly flooded with fresh intel, making her tracking abilities absolute god tier. Done playing games, he ordered her to drop the fuzzy disguise, and leaning in with a terrifying shadow over his eyes, he asked if he needed to rip the... Trembling out of her mind, she wildly shook her head and squeaked that she'd handle the transformation. Clasping her little paws together, an intense neon aura erupted around her. The blinding flash faded, revealing a cute grinning demoness standing right in front of our guy. He instantly roasted her, pointing out she still looked like absolute fodder. But if that sneaky Banbei deployed her, she had to have some hidden value. He demanded her name. Dropping her gaze, she sadly whispered that she was completely nameless. Refusing to waste a single second, the MC ruthlessly dubbed her Street. He scooped her off the literal pavement, so she better carve that origin story into her brain. Surprisingly, she was absolutely obsessed with the moniker, her vibe shifting from zero to a bouncing with joy. She hyped him up with massive thanks. Now it was time for business. He commanded her to spill every single secret she knew about humanity. Meanwhile, Xiaoman was sprinting for his life, pumping his legs at top speed. Trapped in the ultimate danger zone, he knew he had to survive this madness no matter what. Flashback to him bolting out of the tech convention hall. He was absolutely buzzing high off his mind after securing first place in the coding tournament, but a squad of insanely shady suits blocked his path. Leading the pack, Jae-hee smirked, asking if he was the genius dev who just stole the show. She mocked his victory, sneering that the grand prize was a pathetic 50 million won. Chuckling like a total villain, she snapped her fingers and ordered her goons to bag him. Cheyenne shrieked in absolute terror as massive hands chucked him violently into the back of a blacked-out van. Dumped face-to-face with Young Mo, the boss casually asked why he was shaking like a leaf. It was just a strictly business transaction. He pointed to the leather seat beside him, stacked high with 50 million won in cold hard cash. The demand was simple: hand over the rights to the app. But our boy bravely fired back, swearing his creation wasn't a cash grab, and Young Mo let the heavy silence hang, finally whispering that he figured he'd say exactly that. That sinisterly calm tone shot pure ice straight through the kid's veins. Snap back to reality, he was sprinting like a madman, his brain screaming that he couldn't let those thugs track her down. But suddenly, bam! He slammed face first into him. He instantly started begging for forgiveness, but the second he made eye contact, pure terror washed over him. Songjun smirked, admitting this plot twist was totally off his bingo card. They did not even have to hunt this guy down. He literally walked right into their trap. Xian whipped his head around, locking eyes with her. Jae-hee was absolutely fuming, screaming that his life was officially over. It clicked instantly. He was in deep trouble. The crew ruthlessly dragged him down into a dimly lit basement, where Jae-hee coldly laid out his new reality. His only purpose now was to sit in that chair and babysit. If he wanted to avoid rotting in that dungeon forever, he better not mess up. Panicking, he desperately begged her to just hold on a second. But she just shot him a lethal glare, warning him that they would be monitoring every single breath he took from the outside. Trying anything sketchy was basically a death wish. With a deafening slam, she locked the heavy door, trapping him inside a claustrophobic server room with one of her intimidating goons. The dude genuinely thought he was going to die. Right outside, the gang watched him through the glass like an animal at the zoo, while Songjun seriously questioned if this trembling mess was actually a real coder. He was moving at a snail's pace. Jae-hee sighed, explaining that her sources made it crystal clear pushing their Blue Bow product was complete. One of the guys scoffed, asking if the app was seriously named I Am Here, and demanded to know how on earth they planned to monetize it. The branding was just painfully cringe. Inside the room, the guard aggressively shoved Xian into his desk chair, violently smacking the back of his head to force him in. Booting up the system, the interface flickered to life. From the looks of its bubbly logo, the platform was clearly built for making friends. Yang Wu swaggered into the room, casually checking if their grandmaster plan was finally ready to launch. That exact software was the beating heart of their entire Blue Bow empire. Step 1, harvest massive amounts of user data. Step 2, absolutely dominate and manipulate the market however they pleased. The ultimate game changer, the live location sharing feature. That was their secret weapon to skyrocket sales and take over the streets. Seongjun was practically vibrating with hype, cheering that they were about to move Blue Bow inventory in insane massive. Staring intensely at the sinister candy resting in his palm, Yang Wu nodded. It was time to show the world what they had cooked up. By the next morning, the app absolutely exploded, going totally viral. Thanks to a juicy referral bonus of 30,000 won, just for inviting a friend, every student on campus rushed to smash that download button. Naturally, everyone was completely obsessed with bagging free cash. Some toxic kids were literally bullying their classmates into signing up. To sweeten the deal, new users scored a free sample of a so-called diet supplement named Blue Bow. The app swore it was a safely certified health product, which was obviously capped. As night fell, Yang Wu's entire crew was practically throwing a party, completely hyped over their massive success. Jae-hee whipped out her phone to check their daily user metrics, proudly announcing that the numbers were going off the charts. Songjun laughed, admitting that Yang Wu was a total mastermind who knew exactly how to play the game. Looking around at her completely wrecked space, she glared at her subordinate, demanding to know why they still had not hunted down the absolute bozo who destroyed her studio. The lackey nervously explained that he scrubbed the security footage, but bizarrely a bat was blocking the lens. She sharply arched an eyebrow, totally baffled. Refusing to believe his nonsense, she marched over to check the screen herself. Sure enough, a massive bat was dead center in the frame, staring directly into. As if that was not wild enough, a random rat was covering the other camera feeds. Jae-hee aggressively cursed, her mind completely blown by this freakish, impossible coincidence. Right then, Songjun's phone buzzed with a notification. He shot her a serious look, telling her to gear up. The fresh shipment of blue bows had officially hit the docks. Cut to Ravas casually strolling home after classes. He paused, shooting a deadpan look at Suri, who was currently struggling to squeeze her fluffy body through a tiny gap in a brick wall. He just blinked at her, asking if she managed to get herself. Mortified, she instantly squeaked out an apology, transforming back into her majestic true form, while awkwardly confessing that she might have put on a few extra pounds. Ignoring the excuse, he cut straight to the chase, demanding an update on the top-secret mission he handed her the day. Sticking her chest out with pride, she bragged that the intel was tough to crack, but she secured the bag. She reminded him how incredibly fixated he had been on those sketchy sweets yesterday. He had caught a whiff of them earlier, immediately recognizing the distinct toxic scent of a rare devouring flower. That twisted treat was the exact reason he woke up from his slumber in the first place. The crazy part, cultivating a devouring flower without a living host is biologically impossible. Plus, that demonic plant was supposed to be completely extinct, even down in the Underworld. So, how on earth were random humans getting their hands on it, dropping the bomb? Suri revealed that the mysterious candy fueling this madness was branded as Blue Bow. This literal poison was being aggressively peddled to normal people, disguised as trendy diet pills and wellness supplements. His eyes narrowed, demanding the exact ingredient list. Shrinking back, she confessed that Blue Bow's entire manufacturing process was so incredibly shady and locked down that tracking its origins or recipe was nearly impossible. Sweating profusely, she frantically waved her hands, swearing that was absolutely false. She insisted the end product was absurdly mainstream right now. In fact, the streets were so flooded with this garbage that if they just tracked the overwhelming stench of demonic energy, it would lead them straight to the main supplier. He forcefully flicked her right on the forehead, scolding her that she should have instantly rushed to the source instead of wasting time. Pouting, she mumbled that Banbai explicitly ordered her to stick by his side. His expression darkened, instantly growling, as he asked if she was secretly snitching his every single move to Banbai. Panic set in as she practically begged for forgiveness, crying that she was just a pathetic low-tier demon forced to obey both of her bosses. Crossing his arms, he ruthlessly demanded she make a choice right then and there. It was him or Banbai who did she truly serve. She froze, completely tongue-tied, terrified of giving the wrong answer. Leaning in, he dropped a massive proposition: swear loyalty to him, and he would completely erase her pathetic lesser creature status. Instantly straightening her posture to mimic a high-born noble, she flawlessly swore a binding oath of absolute loyalty. A wicked smirk crept onto his face as he confidently reached his hand out, declaring that he officially accepted her as his own personal loyal servant. The second his magic sparked against her skin, Bambi's connection snapped dead. Our MC. He just flashed this totally smug, victorious grin and told him to kick rocks. Following that stunt, they tracked down the source of the Blue Bow. Pitch black night swallowed the sky by the time they hit a sketchy, rundown warehouse. Suri nodded. This was ground zero. The raw pulsing energy of the drug was off the charts here. He stepped up to crack open a massive shipping container, but Suri froze. Heavy-duty steel chains and thick padlocks secured every single door. Forget lockpicks. Our guy went straight for the brute force route. He slammed his fist into the metal, shattering the chains like glass. But the second those doors swung open, a totally rancid, stomach-churning, floor to ceiling, the crate was crammed with foul-smelling boxes. Suri gagged, whispering, "Wait, is all of this Blue Bow?" And that was just the tip of the iceberg. Dozens of identical containers loomed in the shadows. Suddenly a memory hit him like a truck. Back in the day, a brutal clap. Varkin had backed him right up to the jagged lip of a cliff, snarling that his nephew was nothing but a cocky, insufferable little punk. "Still so pathetic and weak," his uncle taunted. Ravis spat blood and fired right back, calling him a twisted piece of garbage. Varkin's eyes darkened as he muttered that if Ravis wouldn't play nice, then he could just drop dead. He launched a devastating punch, but Ravis threw his arms up, bracing and catching the heavy strike. His uncle just flashed a wicked, terrifying smirk. In a flash, he launched our MC backward, sending him flying over the edge. Plummeting down into the bottomless gorge, Ravis screamed every curse word in the book at the old man. Varkin just threw his head back and laughed. "Is this really how you're going out?" he mocked, before diving off the cliff right after him. Moments later, Ravis slammed into the ground. He rolled, gasping and kicking the dirt as agonizing pain shot up his spine. Thud. Varkin touched down right beside him, grinning. "Dead yet," he teased, but the words died in his throat. His eyes locked onto something horrifying. Following his uncle's stare, our MC's blood ran cold. A massive, gruesome mountain of demon corpses lay there, being completely swallowed by bizarre, twisted flowers. Varkin let out a heavy sigh. Well, guess they had finally found the nest. Staring at the horrific blooms, Ravis's mind flashed back to ancient lore, the literal dawn of the human realm. When pure light and pitch darkness first ripped apart, they birthed two absolute opposites that were doomed to clash forever. But right in the messy middle, refusing to pick a side, rogue anomalies spawned on their own. At the very beginning of time, a parasitic flower took root exactly where shattered celestials and butchered demons had been dumped. This flesh-eating weed had one single terrifying craving, the absolute annihilation of the entire world. Knowing the stakes, the two of them unleashed hellfire, reducing the corpse and the parasitic blooms to ash. Snapping back to the present, our MC muttered that he swore they incinerated every last one of them back then. Suri chimed in, saying she'd heard the rumors too, that the Overlord had personally scoured the demon realm and eradicated the species. So, why the heck were they staring at a massive stash of them right now? Ravis narrowed his eyes. These flowers didn't start in the demon realm, he explained. They sprouted here in the human world. The neutrals, it's the one place where light and darkness blend into a chaotic, murky cocktail. Earth doesn't owe allegiance to heaven or hell, making it the perfect crossroads to literally anywhere. According to the ancient human texts he'd studied, mankind supposedly wiped these things off the map thousands of years ago. But obviously history lied. If these cursed blooms were popping up in both realms at the exact same time, somebody was farming them on purpose. Suddenly Suri froze. Her breath hitched as she spotted movement in the click. A blinding flashlight beam slammed right into their faces. They whipped around, squinting into the glare as a harsh voice echoed out. Man, I was just wondering. Who the hell was whispering back here? You rats got any clue whose turf you just stepped on? The thug stepped closer, his eyes zeroing in on our MC. His face lit up with a vicious grin. Yo, he yelled over his shoulder. It's that total clown from the tattoo shop. Suri's eyes went wide. She knew exactly who. She frantically pointed at the girl stepping out of the dark. Ravis, that's her. That's he. Hearing her name, the girl scowled, looking incredibly ticked off. Who the heck is this guy? She snapped. Why did he wreck my parlor, and how did he track us here? Ravis didn't flinch. He just glared, asking coldly if she was the mastermind behind this entire freak. She let out a sharp string of curses. Yes, it's me. So, what? She barked. Ravis shook his head, asking if she had the slightest clue what kind of. Her lips curled into a nasty smirk. Oh, what's wrong? Trying to dig up our little trade secrets? He let out a bored sigh. Trust me, I couldn't care less. I just can't let this toxic garbage keep flowing. Turning her back on him, Jae-hee glared at her muscle. Did you idiots mess up the perimeter again? You know exactly how young Moo is going to punish us if this gets out right. Reaching deep into her pockets, she pulled out a handful of the special stash, raw, unfiltered blue bows. The thugs' eyes practically bugged out of their heads. Wait for real on the house, they drooled. Just shut your traps and eat, she commanded, while the goons frantically ripped open the candy wrappers. Our MC shot Suri a serious side-eye. Fall back and stay out of sight. You're just gonna slow me down. Not wasting a single second, she sprinted to take cover behind a massive metal crate. Right on cue, the blue bows hit their bloodstreams. The thugs' veins bulged as a tidal wave of pure, unhinged rage hijacked their minds. Jae-hee pointed a manicured finger straight at Ravis. Tear him apart. Now! The goons dropped their wrappers and charged like rabid dogs. Ravis just rolled his eyes, calling them absolute morons. High on the power trip, these punks were completely blind to the absolute meat grinder they had just leaped into. Come on, step right up, he taunted, fully tapping into the massive spikes of demonic energy flooding the room. Out of nowhere, a thug with a switchblade lunged straight for his Ravis effortlessly sidestepped the blade and delivered a bone-crushing counterstrike. Instantly, a second guy leaped in, launching a vicious flying kick. Swatting him away like a fly, Ravis pivoted and dashed right toward the next attacker. He ducked under a wild swing, planted his feet, and absolutely laid the guy out with a devastating, jaw-shattering uppercut. But as he spun around, a massive arm locked around his torso. Ravis gritted his teeth, struggling to break the iron grip. He cursed out loud just as the roided-out thug let out a deafening, beastly roar, and brutally suplexed him, slamming our MC's spine first into the concrete before he could even blink. The biggest tank of the group crashed a brutal knee straight into Ravis's chest. Watching from the shadows, Suri was absolutely terrified for him. But Jae-hee, she was just standing there soaking up the bloody spectacle like a movie. The whole crew rushed him at once, throwing hands from every direction. Ravis threw up his guard, quickly realizing these goons packed a serious punch. Were they completely geeked up on a heavier dose of that blue stuff? An idea sparked, and he locked his eyes on a massive shipping container nearby. He smashed his fist straight through a wooden crate, ripping out a heavy bag of powder. With a vicious whip of his arm, he busted it open, blasting a thick white cloud directly into their eyes. The thugs instantly hacked and choked, clawing blindly at their faces. Ravis caught a lungful of the airborne dust, internally gagging at but the demonic aura pulsing through his veins, it actively fed on that toxic malice surging up. The absolute second the goons blinked the grit from their eyes, our guy was already airborne, unleashing absolute hell upon them. He planted one thug face first into the dirt with a skull-rattling right hook, then smoothly slipped a wild haymaker from another punk. Catching the idiot's outstretched leg, Ravis swept him off his feet, launching him hard onto the concrete. Before the guy could even blink, Ravis drove a brutal stomp straight into his kneecap, shattering the bone with a sickening. Ravius barely flinched. He deflected the brute with a lightning-fast sweep, vaulted right over his massive frame, and clamped onto his shoulders like a vice. Using the meathead's own momentum against him, Ravis cranked his grip and Jae-hee stood there totally stunned, her jaw basically on the floor. How the heck did he solo a whole squad of enhanced? His cold, predatory glare locked onto her, sending a shiver of pure terror down her spine. What kind of monster are you? She shrieked. Cut to the city's grand ballet competition. The spotlight tracked a young elite dancer named Yuria as she glided onto the stage. Back in a luxury penthouse, her mother Kong Inju was glued to the live broadcast. She smirked, bragging to the empty room that her daughter's god-tier talent would guarantee her a prime spot in the prestigious Venus ballet troupe. Suddenly, the double doors swung open. Yang Mu and his lackey strolled right in, offering a slick corporate bow to their top-tier client. Inju snapped, totally appalled. Who the hell let you in? Do you have any idea whose penthouse you just trespassed into? Ignoring her tantrum, the assistant casually placed a heavy glass jar of bright. Yang Mu flashed a shark-like grin. You placed a massive order for the Blue Bow specials. We figured a premium client deserves VIP home delivery. Her anger instantly vanished, replaced by wide-eyed hunger as she stared at the stash. Wait, are these the exact same formula? Yang Mu chuckled. Why so nervous? We run a tight ship from the lab to the streets. 0 flaws, 0 risks. But then his smug grin vanished, his eyes narrowing to slits. But are you sure you aren't the one causing problems? He mocked. A bit late for second thoughts, isn't it? You've already pumped your precious kid full of the stuff. And shoved her into the spotlight. Sweating Inju's eyes darted back to the flat screen. Yuria, absolutely wired out of her mind on the cursed sweets, was executing flawless rapid-fire pirouettes at an inhuman speed. But as the tempo cranked to a chaotic blur, panic set in. Thick saliva dripped from Yuria's lips, her pupils vanished into the back of her skull, and violent, unstoppable tremors completely hijacked her. Yang Mu clicked his tongue, shaking his head. Looks like Mommy Dearest got a little too greedy. Exactly how massive of a dose did you feed her? The screen showed pure horror. Yuria's body seized up mid-twirl, locked rigidly on one tiptoe like a broken doll. Inju shot up from the sofa, screaming at the TV for her daughter to cut the routine. Like a scream could hear her. In a split second, Yuria's ankle snapped at a sickening angle, sending her crashing hard onto the polished wood floor. She lay there totally lifeless. The entire auditorium erupted into absolute chaos as security guards sprinted onto the stage. Inju fell to her knees, sobbing hysterically, and furiously lashed out at Yang Mu, screaming that he promised the junk was perfectly safe. He coldly brushed off her tears. I promised safety for people who actually follow the damn instructions. Look at her, she's totally fried, beyond saving. The only way her brain even functions now is by chasing the high. Inju stared at the glass jar, sheer dread washing over her face, as Yang Mu dropped the final bombshell. From this day until she drops dead, she's a slave to the Blue Bow. Before he could even finish his twisted sentence, Inju let out an ear-piercing shriek, violently gripping her hair in despair. Do you have any sick idea how much money and time I invested in her? She wailed. Yang Mu just flashed a devilish smirk, completely. Caller ID Jae-hee. He accepted the video feed lazily, asking what the hell she wanted, but Jae-hee looked absolutely traumatized. She frantically stammered out an apology before a bloodied Ravis ripped the phone from her hands, filling the frame. So, he growled into the lens, you're the cook baking these. Yang Mu's eyes went wide. Who the hell are you? Ravis just gave a dark, knowing smirk. Bingo, found the boss. We need to have a little chat face to face. The screen abruptly went. His smug attitude instantly evaporated. Glaring daggers, Yang Mu coldly dismissed the wailing mother, barking that a massive crisis just popped up. Back at the yard, Jae-hee stared at the scattered powder, utterly disgusted. Why would anyone willingly swallow this poison? Ravis wiped the grime from his jaw. Because humans are pathetic, arrogant creatures. They're so blindingly full of themselves, they actually believe they can take just one hit and walk away clean. They're empty inside, so they let this synthetic trash become their god. Suddenly, Jae-hee gasped, her finger trembling, as she pointed straight past his shoulder. Boss, Jae-hee shouted out, a desperate edge in her voice. Stepping out from the tree line with a heavily armed crew, Yang Mu locked eyes with our guy. Let me guess, the boss sneered. Trashing the tattoo parlor was your master. You've been hunting me down? Yang Mu challenged. Ravis didn't even blink. Don't flatter yourself. I couldn't care less about you. I just want to know where you source that How does a pathetic, weak little mortal get their hands on something like that? Hearing the phrase, little mortal, Yang Mu flinched. His pupils dilated as a crazy thought clicked in his head. Is this punk not human either? Flashback to Yang Mu's hellish childhood. He grew up trapped with a deadbeat dad who was fiercely addicted to hardcore street garbage. A monster who eventually forced his own kid to chase the exact same lethal. Young Woo hollered at the old man, asking if he was already knocked out. He desperately needed another hit of that stuff. When his dad gave zero response, Young Woo just punted him. The heavy kick rolled the body over, exposing glassy dead fish eyes staring right at the ceiling. A chill hit Young Woo. Wait, did the old man actually just flatline? He spit out a string of curses. Unbelievable. The guy had been choking down that garbage his whole life, and now that he kicked the bucket, where the heck was Young Woo supposed to score his next fix? Blind rage took over. He stomped on the corpse over and over, screaming absolute profanities into... Suddenly, a sickly glow sparked deep inside his father's dead eyes. Young Woo froze mid-kick. His blood ran ice cold as he stammered out a terrified whisper. The rotting corpse jerked upwards, twisting its neck. A gravelly, unnatural voice echoed from its throat. Oh, the dad was totally gone. Something else, a demonic parasite, had hijacked the vessel. The entity tilted its head mockingly, asking if losing his flesh and blood shattered his heart. Young Woo just stared back, utterly baffled. The demon teased that he could resurrect the pathetic man if his kid was actually grieving, but a twisted psycho grin stretched across Young Woo's face. Heck no, he cheered that the old geezer finally dropped dead. 0 tears were shed. He didn't care about that useless garbage bag of a dad. The only thing he craved was his precious stash. Catching the vibe completely, the demon offered a bizarre pulsing flower. The instructions were brutal. Toss his dad's rotting carcass to this hungry little plant. Do this, and their dark pact was locked in. In return, Young Woo would score a lifetime supply of whatever his twist. But there was a catch. If anyone dared to double-cross him or reject the parasitic bloom, they had to be eliminated on the spot. The demonic contract would be his ultimate shield. Young Woo locked onto the alien petal. A deranged, unhinged smirk crept up his face before he aggressively jammed the bloom straight into his father's lifeless chest. Snapping back to reality, Young Woo sneered, mocking the main character for being nothing but weak human trash. Ravis narrowed his eyes. It was crystal clear this psycho was hiding an ace up his sleeve. Young Woo bragged that a higher power had blessed him with an absolute rebirth. Honestly, Ravis saw that cliched plot twist coming a mile away. He had straight up sold his soul to a fiend. Ravis casually rolled his shoulders, popping his knuckles, completely unfazed by whatever edgy cult nonsense this kid was hyping up. The MC let out a heavy sigh, tossing fake pity at both the demon and its brainwashed puppet. That struck a massive nerve. Young Woo's face flushed with pure, unfiltered rage at the sheer disrespect. Street darted to the sidelines in a flash, making sure she didn't cramp her master's style. As for Ravis, these low-tier scuffles were getting seriously old. Time to wipe the floor with them and clock out. Meanwhile, the scene cuts to high-stakes panic. Hyunju was riding in the back of a screaming ambulance. Across town, middle schoolers were lit. Things were already spiraling way out of control. The moment that Underground app went live, the notification bell just kept blowing up with a tidal wave of orders. The Blue Bow Syndicate had totally gone viral. Songjun gloated that at this rate, locking down elite VIP whales nationwide was basically a cakewalk. His partner in crime hyped him up, asking if they were about to level up into a massive global empire. Word on the street was that Young Woo was already laying the groundwork to dominate markets in China and Japan. Songjun practically fanboyed over the boss's ruthless grind. But tucked away in the corner of that same room, Xian was paralyzed with guilt. He was glued to the monitors, watching the app's insane download metrics. The crushing weight of creating this digital plague was eating him alive. He silently begged the universe to send a miracle to nuke this whole operation. Cut back to ground zero. Ravis was already handing out one-way tickets to the pavement. Jae-hee shrieked, realizing this so-called high schooler was an absolute monster in combat. Ravis coldly demanded to know when the final boss was going to step into the ring. But Young Woo kept his mouth shut, his mind flashing back to that dark pact. The rule was absolute. Erase anyone who spit on his loyalty or dared to refuse the parasitic bloom. He whipped out 3 cursed candies from his jacket. In his head, he swore to his dark god, Lord Bavor Hilt, that he was about to deliver a brutal execution. Jae-hee was totally losing it. There was 0 chance this overpowered kid was just cramming for midterms like a normal She wildly guessed he was an assassin sent by a rival cartel. Ravis threw her a super confused look, but he didn't have time to process the stupidity because Young Woo violently launched himself. Ravis's reflexes were god tier. He pivoted on a dime, snatching the attacker's fist out of thin air. Young Woo unleashed a hurricane of savage blows, but the MC parried every single one. Ravis had to admit, this guy had serious velocity. He was leagues ahead of the absolute fodder he had just knocked out. Young Woo was losing his mind. How on earth was this kid dodging him? He screeched, demanding to know if Ravis had stolen a demonic blessing too. He was supposed to be the chosen one. The deity belonged. A light bulb finally went off in Ravis's head. The puzzle pieces were clicking. The parasitic plant, the absolute trash can aura hovering around him. The almighty savior this clown worshipped was none other than Bavor Hilt. Young Woo's eyes bugged out. How could a random teen know that forbidden name? Ravis burst into a mocking laugh, pointing out that out of every terrifying demon, he actually picked the most low-level, irrelevant bottom feeder to worship Young Woo, completely popped a blood vessel. He viciously roared at the MC to keep the name of his merciful savior out of his mouth. The MC just hit him with a wicked smirk. He roasted the demon, asking how utterly desperate Bavor must be to crawl into the human world after scurrying around like a sewer rat. Young Woo shrieked for him to shut his trap. He spat that a filthy human had no right to even whisper his master's divine title. Driven entirely by blind chaotic rage, Young Woo cranked his flurry of attacks up to maximum over. Yet Ravis effortlessly deflected the sloppy barrage, his mind wandering back to. He scoffed internally. Bavor Hilt, acting high and mighty. That was hilarious considering what happened the day Ravis casually strolled into. That rat was the sole survivor of the bloodbath. And now the ultimate coward who ditched his kind to save his own skin was playing God in the human realm. What a joke. Ravis coldly demanded to know where that pathetic loser Bavor was hiding his ugly face. Young Woo was literally frothing with toxic rage. Screaming about the absolute disrespect, he lunged forward like a rabid dog letting out a... The second that rotting stench hit him, our boy plugged his nose. But before he could even blink, Young Woo lunged right at him, screaming that anyone disrespecting Lord Bavor was catching hands. He snatched the MC's hair and delivered a brutal knee straight to the gut, without missing a beat, body slamming our guy into the dirt and pinning him down in an absolute chokehold. Wincing through the agony, Ravis threw his arms up to block an incoming haymaker. Young Woo was absolutely unhinged, howling that the blue crate and his precious Lord Bavor were his alone. Our MC quickly realized this freak was totally cooked off that dark energy. He was literally out for blood. With a feral screech, the corrupted student rained down another earth-shattering blow, his eyes glowing with a toxic light. Hiding in the shadows, Suri was absolutely losing it, watching her master take this beatdown. Knowing his mortal vessel was completely tapped out, she knew that if they were back in the Underworld, where he could flex his true magic, he would have wiped the floor with this clown. Off to the side, his uncle and buddy were spectating the brawl. Bambi noted that this botanical freak of an experiment had fully synchronized with the host. He pointed out that even though Ravis was trapped in this weak flesh, that dark bloodstone inside him should have been enough to swat down a basic lab rat. He honestly thought our guy was about to kick the bucket, which meant his soul would get totally obliterated. But Farkin just flashed a smug grin, casually asking his friend if he knew what ticked his nephew off the most. Bambi deadpanned that the kid literally despises breathing, so narrowing it down is basically impossible. With an attitude problem that massive, you really gotta wonder where he got it from. Catching the subtle shade, Farkin just rolled his eyes. Then the older demon spilled the tea. What Ravis truly despises is filth. The guy is a total germaphobe who gags at a speck of dust. Right on cue, our MC fiercely caught Young Woo's fist mid-air, complaining about the absolute garbage dump they were in. The monster looked totally clueless, so Ravis snapped that the revolting stench rolling off his skin was literally making him sick. Gripping the attacker's hand with bone-crushing force, he shoved him backward, dusting himself off as he stood up. Our boy realized that even though it was just his left arm firing up, that demonic power finally felt like his own again. He glared daggers at his opponent. Trembling, the corrupted student hesitated, while Ravis openly cringed, stating he absolutely refused to touch that grimy trash for another second. He declared playtime was over. Closing the gap in a flash, he delivered a devastating hook straight to the jaw, nearly snapping the dude's neck back. The monster was totally bewildered by this sudden insane power spike. While Suri was practically throwing a party in the shadows, Ravis coldly reminded him he was dealing with a monster, following up with a brutal strike that launched the guy soaring through the air like a rag doll. Jae-hee let out a terrified shriek as the bruised attacker scrambled to his feet, spitting curses, demanding to know what he was. Ravis instantly closed the distance, ordering him to shut his trash-filled mouth, before launching him airborne with an uppercut. Bambi's jaw dropped, but Farkin just laughed, guessing the overpowering funk of that awakened lab rat gave his nephew a massive migraine. The nasty odor definitely kept him from going all out at first, since dirt is his ultimate trigger. Pushing his germophobia to the absolute limit forced a mini awakening, letting him tap into a sliver of his original stats. Bambi was stunned, asking if he was genuinely flexing his old magic, while trapped in a mortal shell. He argued that even with that dark crystal channeling abyssal energy through a condemned vessel was basically a glitch in the Matrix. Farkin just smirked, pointing out that their boy was built entirely different. At the end of the day, Ravis shared his elite bloodline. Back in the fight, our MC unleashed another brutal combo, sending his target crashing into a stack of sketchy crates, coldly telling the guy to count his lucky stars. Because honestly, this weak avatar prevented him from finishing the job. The bruised student stared in shock, completely refusing to accept reality. How could someone gifted with Lord Bavor's supreme buff be getting absolutely cooked like this? Desperate for a comeback, his hand brushed against the shattered crate, sparking a deranged idea that spread into a manic grin. He just needed a bigger dose. He went to rip open another package, but our boy clamped onto his wrist like a vice, warning him to drop the brain-dead strategy. He promised to humble him so badly, he'd wish he was sent to the afterlife. Pivoting his footing, Ravis reinforced his left arm with his right hand and lunged forward like a bullet, leaving his enemy completely paralyzed with terror. With explosive momentum, he drove his empowered fist straight forward, using his right grip to max out the impact damage. As the dust settled, our MC stepped back. Young Woo's head was buried completely inside the crate, and he was out cold. Breathing a massive annoyed sigh, Ravis whipped out a crisp handkerchief and plastered it over his face, muttering that the rancid biohazard smell was finally fading. Cut to Shion, who was frantically swiping through his app's analytics and absolutely losing his mind. This was never part of his plan. High school is just a rigged game where cliques and social hierarchies force you into toxic boxes. To survive that social meat grinder without a target on your back, you gotta fake a smile at people and act like you hate others just to fit the script. All he wanted was to engineer a platform to connect lonely kids who genuinely clicked. He didn't code this whole system to push shady underground substances. Stealing his nerves, he locked in with pure determination. He literally nuked the servers, triggering an instant massive meltdown. The lookouts caught the fatal error flashing on screen. Heart pounding, Xian bolted up, shoving a heavy chair straight under the doorknob to lock them out. Spotting the barricade, Songjun barked at his crew to breach the room. Fist after fist violently pounded against the glass and wood, screaming for him to open up. Xian sprinted back to the glowing monitor to wipe the app's existence, completely ignoring Songjun's muffled rage-fueled threats. Fingers flying, he slammed the digital SOS button just as glass shattered everywhere. Songjun had swung a chair straight through the window, vaulting into the room with his goons. Before Xian could blink, a fist connected with his jaw, sending him reeling as a thug screamed, "What the hell are you pulling?" While the guy rained merciless blows down on him, the others swarmed the glowing screen, realizing this absolute madman had actually flatlined their entire network. Pure panic washing over his face, Songjun shrieked at his hacker to kill the deletion sequence right now. If Young Woo finds out we're all dead meat. The tech guy started sweating bullets, frantically mashing keys, totally clueless on how to abort it. Bleeding but hyper-focused, Xian knew he just had to stall until the progress bar hit 100%, whatever it took. Snatching a jagged glass shard from the floor, he slashed it directly across his attacker's calf. As the guy howled, Xian scrambled up, dashed across the room, and ripped a fire extinguisher from the wall. He whipped around, screaming at the top of his lungs that it was his creation. Yanking the pin, he blasted the nozzle, plunging the entire room into a blinding, choking white fog. The thick cloud completely blinded the thugs, buying just enough time the app was officially wiped. But dropping his guard to check the monitor cost him. Out of the smoke, Songjun lunged like a wild animal, wrapping his hands around Xian's throat and slamming him violently onto the concrete. He roared at his boys to grab some zip ties for this absolute freak, but his crew was just hacking their lungs out, completely useless in the haze. Left alone? Songjun tightened his lethal grip around the boy's windpipe. Xian's nails desperately clawed at the older guy's forearm, his vision blurring as he thought, "Is this my absolute limit? Am I really going out like this?" Songjun spat a curse, but then a chillingly calm voice echoed from the shadows. "Who gave you permission to lay hands on my servant?" Songjun whipped around in pure terror. Ravis instantly snatched him by the collar, and a blood-curdling shriek pierced. The other two goons flinched at the sound, frantically shouting their boss's name. As the chemical smoke began to thin, the horrific silhouette emerged, this random high schooler lifting Songjun by his scalp and pummeling him. Without thinking, they charged in to save him. But our MC wasn't having it. He dashed forward, delivering a brutal hook to the first guy's face, then dropped the second one cold, flattening them both on the spot. Standing over their groaning bodies, he smirked. "Where do you think you're going? After my one and only lackey, I'd literally die before letting anyone touch what's mine." Gasping for air, Xian stared up at his savior, flashing back to the day he pitched the app to him. "Right here in the forums, people with the same vibe, just link up and chat. If you're close by, you can drop a pin. Or even form study squads." Minho's jaw had dropped, totally blown away that Xian actually coded all this. Tapping the glowing crimson icon on the screen, he asked, "Wait, what's this do?" Xian avoided eye contact, guilt washing over his face. He confessed that when Taiho's gang dragged Minho off last time, he felt completely useless for not stepping in. Truth was, he literally couldn't track down where they had hauled him. "That's exactly why I built this panic mode. You hit this trigger, and only your inner circle gets your exact coordinates. If those punks ever corner you again, just mash this, and I'm sliding through no matter what. I'll call the cops, or rally up a whole squad." Minho offered a bittersweet smile, genuinely thanking him, promising he was downloading it right that second. Snapping back to reality, Xian gazed at the MC with glossy eyes. Holding up his cracked phone, he stammered, "Wait, did you come here because of me?" "So, the SOS actually went through?" Staring at the shattered screen, he fully broke down, crying endlessly, thanking him for having his back. Cut to outside. Series was keeping watch, wrestling to keep Jae-hee pinned down, or at least attempting to. Jae-hee was thrashing like crazy while an annoyed Cirrus barked at her to just freeze. But the second Lord Ravis emerged from the dark basement, Cirrus lost focus for one split second, and Jae-hee ripped herself free. Cirrus instantly bolted after the runaway, but the MC held up a hand, telling her to let the girl walk. She was dead weight now anyway. Gazing up into the night sky, he smirked, knowing those parasitic flowers he discovered were officially reduced to ashes. Miles away, the abandoned warehouse was fully getting swallowed by a raging inferno, with sirens blaring as fire trucks and patrol cars swarmed the scene to extinguish the massive blaze. In the middle of the chaos, one detective, Park Youngin, scanned the perimeter, trying to piece together this insane puzzle, only to spot severely battered bodies dumped near the tree line. Back with our squad, Ravis casually strolled home. Minho trailed close behind, totally weirded out by this wildly intense girl, just marching beside them. Right then it finally clicked for the MC Dongbei, and his shady uncle had totally been playing him this whole time. Oh, he was definitely plotting his revenge. Once they made it back, Cheyenne asked, "Bro, are you positive we shouldn't hit the ER?" The MC just shrugged. "Nah, I'm good. Too much effort." Cheyenne cracked a smile, shooting Minho another huge thank you. He admitted he smashed the panic button on a total whim, never actually thinking he'd show up. Ravis raised an eyebrow, brutally honest, pointing out that him showing up was literally just a massive coincidence. Street slapped a hand over her mouth, bursting into fits of laughter. "Are you seriously trying to play that off as an accident, Lord Ravis?" she whispered. Just moments earlier, a chilling threat had echoed down the alleyway. "This is the route to their hideout, right? Because if you're lying, you're going to end up exactly like your crew." Jahi shot back, panic bleeding into her voice. "Is he going this hard just because I'm friends with Xion? Is that why he's acting so unhinged?" Ravis's eyes narrowed. "Wait, what? They actually snatched him, so that's why Xion ghosted school today." Jahi shrieked, "What the hell? If this isn't about his friend, then why is he doing all this?" The MC just coldly checked his phone, tracking a radar blip pulsing from a nearby alley. Street leaned in, murmuring, "Come on, you can't honestly expect anyone to buy that accident. That is definitely not how you level up your human relationships, boss." He clearly had zero plans of heading back to the demon realm anytime soon. Plus, this kid was practically looking at Lord Ravis like he was some kind of comic book savior who just swooped in to rescue him. Xion squinted at Street and blurted out, "Hold up, who is the girl hanging with you?" The MC blinked. "Her. She's basically my lackey, named Street." Xion's brain went into overdrive. A lackey? Was this actually Minho? He frantically begged him to hear him out. "Dude, I gotta ask you something," Xion stammered. The fact that his buddy had totally glowed up out of nowhere, plus this chick rocking some seriously weird cosplay, it all clicked. Xion literally started shaking with hype, thinking, holy crap, Minho absolutely joined a mafia gang. He just prayed his bro hadn't tangled with the wrong cartel. Meanwhile, the MC was busy scheming, knowing damn well that assassins would soon be hunting his servant. The MC sighed. "Yeah, I guess keeping this under wraps forever is impossible. Screw it, time to rip the band-aid off. I am the bloodline of the absolute demon king. The sovereign descended straight from the underworld itself. I am Ravis Vindika." Xion just stared blankly, totally dumbfounded. "Bro, who?" The MC smirked. "Well, the cat's out of the bag. Now that you know my secret, you're stuck helping me run my empire." Xion scoffed. "The son of the demon king. Are you tripping right now?" But then he glanced down at his lap and let out a blood-curdling shriek. "What the hell is happening?" Street had straight up morphed into a black cat, purring and rubbing her head against his knees. The MC crossed his arms. "Street, you do the explaining. I've been throwing hands all day and I am dead tired," Street meowed back. All right. Listen closely, human kid." Cheyonne's eyes bugged out in pure terror. "The freaking cat is talking." His brain short-circuited and he instantly passed out cold. Cut to later, a thug reported that he had rounded up everyone. "I'm heading to the station right now," the guy announced. Young Mo hung his head in absolute dread, his mind screaming, "That's psycho! I was literally inches from death." Suddenly, Detective Cha spun around, hand on his holster. "Hey, who the hell are you? You can't be in here." A massive guy in a dark robe violently shushed the cop. He forcefully shoved the detective into the dirt and kept walking. Bauer strolled up to the parked car, scoffing. "Oh, look at the poor baby. Absolutely pathetic." Young Mo wailed in desperation. "Boss Bauer, please, he's out of his mind." Bauer coldly waved him off. "Get moving. We'll chat later." At that exact moment, Youngin was examining a piece of the candy, her mind racing. Dispatch just confirmed that every single dealer got completely wiped out. But who had the juice to pull that off? And worse, these psychedelic candies, supposedly greenlit by the Ministry of Health, were already infecting the schools, turning kids into literal zombies. "What a bunch of absolute scumbags," she muttered. She glanced down the street and spotted a detective struggling to push himself up from the pavement. Grunting in pain, he groaned, "My skull feels like it's cracking open." Jungin sprinted over, shouting, "Detective, Cha, talk to me. Are you good?" The cop gasped out. "The squad car? Go check the damn car." Jungin flashed her light into the back seat, and her stomach dropped. No way. What the actual hell? Where did that suspect vanish to? Meanwhile, back at the hideout, Young Mo was groveling on his knees, sobbing. "Boss Bauer, I'm begging you, just one more chance. If you just spot me a little more, if I can just get another hit, I swear I'll rip that bastard to shreds." Bauer glared down at him, his voice venomous. "Do you possess even a fraction of an idea what those Do you know the sheer hell I went through to harvest those humans? This is exactly why you never put your faith in worthless trash. My priceless crop completely ruined." As Young Mo kept bawling about needing a second shot to slaughter the MC, Bauer crushed a spiked flower in his fist and whipped it straight across Young Mo's face. Young Mo howled in agony, collapsing into a heap. "My eye! It's melting, nightmare!" he shrieked. Bauer just stared. If he still remembered the sacred blood oath he swore. "Show me your ultimate loyalty," Bauer sneered. "Feed that flower to the soil." Over in another room, Jae-hee was hyperventilating. I have to survive, Nightmare, she muttered frantically. Just grab the crypto wallet and get the hell out of Dodge. Where are you hiding it, you psycho? Suddenly the door kicked open. A tweaking junkie stumbled in, rambling. I went to the drop, man, but the feds were everywhere. Figured I'd hit this stash spot instead, and look who I found. Jae-hee backed up, utterly terrified. What is happening? What the hell do you want? The addict clawed at his own face, totally delirious. Look what she did to my skull. I need the candy, give me another hit right now. Jae-hee's heart hammered against her ribs. This dude is completely tweaked out. How much of that crap did he pop? She snatched up a metal. Stay the hell back. But before she could swing, he ruthlessly slugged her in the gut. A breathless shriek tore from her throat as she crumpled to the floor, gasping for air. The junkie's pupils were literally rolling in opposite directions. You stupid brat, hand over the stash, he snarled, his spine arching backward as he let out a guttural roar. Blue bow. Tears streamed down his face. She can't go out this brutally, he thought in absolute agony. Suddenly the dude's face warped into pure pitch-black mana, and an eerie voice echoed out, Oh, Ravis is absolutely gonna hate this, Jay. The guy choked out, Who the hell are you? While the girl desperately begged for her life. Bombay just shrugged it off, murmuring for forgiveness. Look, my magical tank is completely on empty. If she's fated to burn in the underworld, she's just gotta suck it up and accept her fate, right, Shay? The guy screamed back, Mine, but I guess I'll just dump her physical shell right here. Cut to the demon realm where Inez glared coldly. Welcome back, little brother. Varkhan. Ever since they banished Ravis to the mortal plane, that guy was plotting something shady. How dare that bastard do this to our boy, she raged. Varkhan just flashed a sly smirk. Did the humans figure out his true identity? Relax, sis, stop stressing so much. Ravis is fully grown. You really think I'd send him out there with zero backup? I totally hid the demon bloodstone deep inside his core. Inez completely lost her mind. Wait, what? The actual demon bloodstone. Are you clinically insane? Do you want to blast a giant megaphone to the universe screaming that the great demon king's heir is wandering the human realm, defenseless? Varkhan sighed, holding up his hands. Look, sis, and maybe it's about time you actually believed in the kid. Inez scowled fiercely, her voice dropping. It's not about lacking faith in Ravis. I am terrified of the absolute chaos brewing out there. The balance is so ridiculously fragile right now. One tiny mistake could literally trigger. Varkhan casually crossed his arms, totally unbothered. Ravis is way more overpowered than you give him credit for. He's built for war. His combat stats are crazy. Wham! Inez ruthlessly slammed her fist into his skull. He's a reckless idiot. That's the whole freaking issue, she screeched. If Ravis's soul takes even a scratch, we are both permanently dead. Do you get that through your thick skull? Varkhan rubbed his head, whining. Bro, I'm centuries old, and you're still smacking me. Desperate, he ordered Bombay to speed read through every single grimoire in the library. I got to invent a spell to instantly delete all overbearing older sisters from existence, Varkhan muttered. Shut your mouth, Inez snarled. I am so done with your psycho nonsense. As Bombay nervously begged them to chill, Inez violently grabbed Varkhan by the throat. Watching the chaos, Bombay thought, props to that idiot Ravis for actually surviving this toxic household. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Xian was shaking. Dude, you're literally an actual demon, aren't you? He stuttered. The MC just deadpanned. Yeah, humans do love calling us that. Street was internally squealing. Oh my gosh, the master saved us. Xian, on the verge of a panic attack, blurted out, Wait, now that I know your secret, am I condemned to hell when I die? Ravis flashed a dark look. Hell is already right here. But hey, tag along with me to the demon realm, and I guarantee absolutely nobody will Because I, Ravis, the sole heir to the almighty demon king, will be your personal lord and savior, Xian shrieked in pure terror. Hard pass. Keep your VIP protection. I am absolutely not going to a nightmare dimension. The MC's face completely twisted with heavy annoyance, and he instantly muttered that the second he stepped foot home, he was going to violently rip out Bombay's eyeballs and slurp out every drop of fluid. Gulping, Xian asked, Then, what the heck happened to the actual Minho? Street sneered coldly. That kid's fate was a sealed deal. Demon protocol mandates we only hijack the meat suits of humans who are already marked for death. Xian's lip visibly quivered as he fought back massive tears. What do you mean by that? Why was Minho supposed to die? The MC stared at him like he was crazy. Dude, why are you crying? You've still got a good 2 decades left on your clock. And then we'll all throw a giant reunion party down in the underworld. Xian face-palmed. So, it's basically 100% confirmed. Ravis scoffed. You humans watch way too many horror movies. The demon realm is literally a whole vibe. Right, Street? Oh, absolutely, master, she chirped enthusiastically. It's a gorgeous paradise of shredded human flesh and endless agonizing screams echoing everywhere. The air just permanently smells like fresh blood. Xian clutched his stomach, begging her to shut up. Ravis waved it off. Look, that's years away. Stop stressing, just treat me like your normal bro and definitely keep your mouth shut about this. Cheyenne nodded rapidly, terrified. Got it! Out of nowhere, the MC groaned. Ugh, man, my entire body is screaming in pain. He violently cringed. Street panicked, yelling, Please wait up for me, Lord Ravis! Fast forward, he finally stumbled into his house, gripping his skull in agony. My brain feels like it's literally cracking open, he hissed. He realized he probably burnt through way too much of the Demon Bloodstone's insane power. Suddenly, Mina burst into the room beaming. Baby bro, quick blow out the candles on your cake. Happy birthday. The MC totally blanked. Birthday. Mom and I poured our hearts into this. We've been baking since yesterday, Mina proudly declared. Though honestly, I can't promise it won't taste like cardboard. She aggressively slapped a dorky party hat right onto his head and said, Mom and Dad are gonna be home any second. She whipped out her smartphone and grinned. But first we gotta take a birthday selfie. The MC suddenly zeroed in on a nasty bandage plastered across her cheek. The hell happened to your face? He demanded. Mina just just some trashy punks harassing a sweet grandma with her grocery cart. I stepped in and handled it, no biggie. Ravis stared at her, totally baffled. Why was she doing such utterly pointless stuff? She was incredibly fragile, yet she kept throwing herself into danger to protect random strangers. Humans were complete. Alright bro, I bet you're starving. Time for the ultimate taste test. Mina excitedly shoved a massive spoonful of tea straight into his mouth, and instantly his demonic eyes shot wide open in pure shock. His brain short-circuited trying to process this insane flavor so unbelievably fluffy rich, and he clutches his face, shutting his eyes in pure bliss. But suddenly an ear-piercing scream shatters the silence. Total nightmare fuel. He barks in order to track down every single one of those losers who pelted him with eggs. He swears he's going to wipe them off the map. His assistant nervously stammers, yes, absolutely. Tysick whips around and brutally smacks his assistant, roaring that he'll totally wreck him first. How could this useless guy fail to handle one tiny little problem? Juhee desperately grabs his arm, begging him to stop, but the monster just backhands her, snarling at her to back off. Mina jumps in, screaming at him to back the hell up. Mom, Tysick scoffs, glaring at her like she's insane. Then his eyes lock onto the pastry on the table. The hell is this, he growls. He just got humiliated and completely trashed with eggs on the campaign trail, and they're sitting here with a freaking cake. He violently shoves Mina aside, spitting out, You guys have zero respect. He flips the entire cake right off the table, screaming at the top of his lungs. If I was your actual biological dad, do you think you could even swallow a choking back sobs? Juhee desperately pleads with him to calm down. Please, she cries out. It's literally Minho's birthday today. Who gives a damn about a birthday right now? The main character just stares dead-eyed at Tysick's raging face while the absolute psycho spins around and screams, You useless parasites, before violently slamming the door shut. The MC glances down at the ruined mess on the floor. His eyes go dark. That was my cake. And this deadbeat actually— Juhee breaks down, completely sobbing and begging for her kid's forgiveness. Mina tightly wraps her arms around her trembling mother. No, Mom, stop. You didn't do anything wrong. The MC turns away, his mind racing. This scumbag. He's getting way too cocky for his own good. Cut to, a little while later. Tysick is fuming at his desk, completely losing his mind. He's throwing a massive tantrum because that loser young Mo isn't wiring the cash. The guy is totally ghosting him. Where the hell is he hiding? Just to score a single photo op with Deputy Park. He needs to drop a massive down payment up front. Young Mo, you absolute piece of trash, he curses. Standing nearby, his battered lackey hastily nods, promising they'll do absolutely everything. Track that loser down right now. Tysick barked, absolutely seething that he had to kiss up to such a brain-dead moron just to boost his poll numbers. And now these clowns were totally botching everything. Suddenly his assistant burst through the doors, gasping, Boss, Mina's video is going insanely viral. Tysick snapped back. What the hell? What video now? The assistant shoved a tablet into his hands, frantically telling him to watch. On screen, some thug was grabbing Mina's face while she shrieked. The camera caught every single second. Get your filthy hands off me! The punk scoffed. Who do you think you are getting in my face? Mina violently swatted his grip away, screaming, And who are you brats to bully an innocent grandma and act so tough? The thug panicked, calling her a total psycho. They needed to bounce right now. Screw this, let's go. What the hell are you all staring at? Move it. Mina quickly rushed over to the frail elderly woman, gently asking, Ma'am, are you badly hurt? The old lady showered her with gratitude. Watching this, Tysick raised, Wait, did Mina actually do something useful? The assistant beamed. Yes, sir. If the public finds out this heroic girl is your stepdaughter, your approval ratings will literally skyrocket. The comment section is already going crazy. A sinister smirk crept across Tysick's face. Is that right? Well then, the pieces are finally falling into place. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit room, a chillingly smooth voice echoed. My, how did such a gorgeous little face— Hanyang Hansu, come look at this. What do you two think? Mina's glowing face flashed across their massive monitor as the creepy woman purred. Behold, Mommy's brand new vessel. Hansu licked his lips. She's stunning. Hanyang just stared blankly at the screen, prompting Yeonju to ask, "What's wrong, darling? Don't you like her?" Hanyang shrugged shortly. "Not really my type." Yeonju chuckled. "Oh, is somebody getting a little jealous? This girl has the exact flawless features I've been hunting for, making her the ultimate candidate for my next body. Human flesh rots way too fast. It gets so terribly hideous, all wrinkled and decayed. But this girl, she is a downright masterpiece. It's pure destiny." Hansu grinned wickedly. "What a gorgeous little toy. I seriously wonder how she'll scream when I snap her in half." Fast forward a bit, and every single news network was exploding with breaking headlines about the badass high schooler who rescued a helpless grandma. The ultimate plot twist. She was the daughter of the leading mayoral candidate. The assistant eagerly reported, "Boss, as of this morning, the latest polls confirm we've violently snatched back the #1 spot. If we keep riding this hype, we're basically guaranteed to win the election." "They're broadcasting her viral clip on the 9 o'clock news tonight." Tasek's eyes lit up. "Prime time at 9. Fantastic. Who would have guessed that Brat's reckless temper tantrum would strike pure gold for us? I guess I'll have to play the loving family man to milk this hype. We need to stage a massive charity volunteer event right now. Slap Mina's face on every single PR stunt we can dream up." The assistant nodded frantically. "Yes, sir. Oh, and Mr. Candidate, Han Yeonju, the big boss over at Nox Corporation, personally reached out." Tasek froze. "Han Yeonju? Why the hell is Nox calling us?" The assistant swallowed hard. "They claim they took a heavy interest in us, right after watching Mina's video." Tasek's jaw Sigorok dropped. "The Nox Corp, holy crap, Mina is turning out to be an absolute gold mine." Meanwhile, Xian sighed heavily, admitting he was totally clueless. He had zero idea that Mina's stepfather was running for mayor. Our boy Ravis raised an eyebrow. "Stepdad, do you actually know young Minho's family situation?" Xian shook his head. "Minho kept his mouth shut about it. I just know the two of us vibed pretty well. He fiercely protected his little sister, though." Ravis tilted his head back, murmuring, "Protected, huh?" He flashed back to his uncle's stern advice, warning him to ruthlessly guard the pawns essential to his own reign. The memory of Varkan's annoying, deafening rants echoed in his mind. Suddenly, Ravis stopped dead in his tracks, staring up. He glared downward, groaning, "Why are you crashing my turf again?" The demon street, hilariously wedged tight inside a crack in the brick wall, whined that she'd been stuffing her face way too much lately. "That's literally it," Ravis deadpanned. "Are all the gateways to the underworld this freaking cramped? Anyway, what did Bambi say?" Struggling, Street passed him a crumpled note. Lord Bambi vanished, but he left you this message." Ravis read the messy scrawl. "Solid work, kid. Keep it up, and you might actually bag. I'm shipping over a neat little bonus prize, so get off your ass and hunt him down." Ravis violently shredded the paper, to confetti roaring. "That absolute bastard, he's totally playing me. I'll butcher him before I even touch Bauer. Screw you, Bambi." Street panicked, frantically begging Mr. Ravis to chill out. Nearby, Xian was glued to his phone, staring at the trending article declaring Tasek the undisputed frontrunner. He muttered, "Bro, at this pace, is her twisted dad actually going to secure the mayor's seat? The entire internet is practically worshipping him." Ravis shot him a sharp look. "You think a scumbag like that is going to devour this entire city?" Xian frowned. "He won't just devour it. He'll completely hijack the system. Total dictatorship." Ravis scoffed. "His disgusting greed reeks of a Cinerus. Hey, Street, what are the odds this young Tasek freak is actually a Cinerus that crawled up into this miserable human world?" Xian blinked. "Wait, Cinerus." Street chimed in. "The Cinerus are repulsive, gluttonous demons from the deepest pits of the underworld. They literally never stop binge eating. Honestly, even the other demons despise their guts. But Mr. Ravis, I oversee this territory. Young Tasek is 100% a normal human." Ravis narrowed his eyes. "Are you sure about that? Smells incredibly fishy to me. If a greedy parasite like him takes the throne, then this human world is truly beyond saving. Anyway, Street, you seriously need to lay off the snacks, or you're gonna mutate into a Cinerus yourself." Street sniffled, fat tears welling up. "Yes, Mr. Ravis." Xian broke the tension, his voice dropping coldly. "This candidate young Tasek, he's blatantly weaponizing Mina, and I seriously hate it." Jung Minho and Jung Mina. Our MC mulled over those names. A beat later, stepping through his front door, voices drifted from the living room. Just what kind of mess was Mina tangled up in now? Her visuals absolutely top tier, Yeonju purred. With her dance foundations already locked in, we could debut her in no time. Hell, she'd easily snatch the center spot. Juhi cut in, panic lacing her tone. "But Mina is just a high schooler, and she's never even breathed a word about wanting the idle life." Tasek shot her a freezing glare. "Honey, chill out. No need to cause a scene in front of the CEO. The kid is practically dripping with raw talent. Bearing that would be a downright sin." He smoothly pivoted, flashing a sickeningly sweet apology to the director. "My apologies, my wife is just a bit soft-spoken." The MC's saw stepped into the room, catching Juhi's anxious gaze. Yeonju waved off the concern with a polished, "Don't sweat it. Here at Nox, we bend over backward to balance schooling and schedules." The idol industry isn't the meat grinder it used to be. These days, the girls crush the charts and still snag spots at elite colleges. Meanwhile, Ravis locked eyes on Hansu, catching the guy totally zeroed in on Mina. Just what is this creep's deal, he thought. Tasik eagerly flipped open the crisp folder. So, I just slapped my signature right here, yeah? Exactly, Yeonju crooned. That single piece of paper is the golden ticket to Mina's gleaming future, an exclusive she-tract with Nox Entertainment. Mina went completely rigid, her eyes glued stubbornly to the floorboards. Catching the MC's reflection out of the corner of her eye, Yeonju "Oh, and you must be Mina's older brother. Such a pleasure." She flashed a shark-like grin. "I'm the CEO of Nox Han Yeonju." The MC just stared her down, a heavy silence hanging in the air. Taisik snapped, his face flushing red. "Jung Minho, where are your damn manners, bo?" Yeonju just chuckled. "Oh, let it go, sir. It's totally Gen Z kids always have that rebellious streak," the MC observed quietly. Minho would burn the world down for Mina. Suddenly, a ghost of a memory echoed in his mind, Barkin's booming voice. "Ravus, I will always have your back," the MC's past self had roared. What the hell is the meaning of this? Barkin's tone had turned dead. "This realm is crawling with bloodthirsty snakes gunning for the throne. But you are the rightful heir. You gotta carry the torch of this world's sovereign, Gamatter's own brother. The weight of the world is on your shoulders now, kid. You need to build your own loyal squad. I don't need dead weight." "I work better solo," Ravis had scoffed. Barkin had just tossed his head back, booming with laughter. "Keep talking tough, kiddo. But mark my words, one day, you'll stumble across people you die to protect. Your heart will just latch on to them. Before you even realize it, they'll flip your whole world upside down." Ravis had groaned. Man skipped the emotional pep talk. "I hate this deep crap. Let's just throw hands and train." Barkin had cackled warmly, swearing the kid was a carbon copy of his nephew. Snapping back to the present, the MC clamped a firm hand onto his little sister's shoulder. "Young Mina, look at me. Do you actually want this?" Mina jolted, her wide eyes darting up. "Mappa." Ravis's voice went dead serious. "If they're twisting your arm, say the word. I'll tear this whole thing down." Mina swallowed hard, her gaze dropping back down as a toxic flashback choked her. A sickening smack echoing through the house. Tasik standing over her trembling mother, raging. "What, you're walking out? You ungrateful bitch. I put a roof over your head. Kick and scream all you want, but you aren't taking these brats anywhere." He had fistfuls of her mom's hair, spitting venom. "They're stamped on my family register, you hear me?" Juhi had sobbed, begging him to just let them walk away. "Oh, go on then. Walk," he had sneered. "Let's see how long you last out there, without a single red cent." Little Mina had thrown herself between them, screaming, "We don't need you. We have Grandpa's inheritance." "It's not yours." Taisik had rolled his eyes, utterly disgusted. "Listen to this delusional brat, just like her pathetic mother. You haven't tasted a single drop of the real world." He had dug his fingers into Juhi's cheeks, forcing her to look at him. "You want to know the absolute golden rule of surviving this hellhole? Never ever let go of what you already own. Burn that into your brain, my sweet daughter, Mina." Snapping out of the nightmare, Mina locked her jaw. "Yeah, I'm doing this because I want to. I'm ready to dive in, but I have one condition. Every single dime I make goes into an account with my name on it." Her eyes hardened with absolute resolve. "I swear on my life I'll buy Mom and Appa's freedom from this monster." Tasik's mask slipped. "Wait, what condition, Mina, sweetie?" He recovered quickly, laughing it off. "Well, duh. Obviously, sweetie, you grind for it, you keep the bag." "Perfect." Yeonju clapped her hands together. "Let's get this ink dried, shall we?" Tasik practically bowed in half. "Please, Madame Guillot, look out for our little star. She's literally the light of my life." Juhi grabbed Mina's hands, whispering desperately, "Are you absolutely positive about this?" Mina flashed a brave, heartbreaking smile. "Just trust me, okay? And thanks for having my back, Appa." The MC just held her gaze, a tempest of unspoken promise. A few hours later, rolling through the neon-lit streets in the back of a luxury SUV, Yeonju smirked. "The longer I look at her, the more I'm utterly obsessed. That pristine new vessel, the visuals, that piercing gaze, and God, that untainted innocence. You just don't see that kind of purity anymore. She's a literal masterpiece." "Okay, but what about the older brother? Jung Minho gave off some seriously weird vibes," Hansu muttered from the driver's seat. Yeonju glanced at the shadowy figure next to her. "Thoughts?" The entity hissed. "That boy reeks of something foreign. His aura is entirely unnatural. I'd bet my life he isn't." "Well, if you're saying that, could he be some little lapdog sent from the demon realm?" Hansu gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles going white. "Mother, if he's a spy, give me the word. I'll rip him apart." Yeonju simply raised a manicured hand. "Stand down. Going rogue now would blow up in our faces while they're watching. Mina is our only priority." Suddenly, Hansu clawed at his own skull, unleashing a blood-curdling, unhinged shriek. "Look at this psycho's face, dude, is practically foaming at the mouth, ready to rip him apart." But Yeonju strokes his ego, whispering to, "Just hold on. The moonless night is right around. Once she drops this dark ritual and claims Mina's body as her ultimate prize, he gets a free pass to completely obliterate this Minho kid. Hansu's eyes light up like a twisted kid in a candy store. For real, you promise, he chirps. Duh, consider it a little treat from mommy. Cross my heart, kiddo. But then Han-yong chimes in, hey, Mara, what about her? Yeonju's pupils snap wide open, pure venom flashing in her eyes. Excuse me, Mara Han-yong, you better wipe that name out of your mouth forever. I am Han Yeonju now. Actually scratch that I'm about to be reborn as the flawless Jeong Mina. Not even the great demon king or those 12 edgy black thrones. Absolutely nobody is dragging me down. This time I'm taking the W. Cut to a little later. Mina stands outside the massive agency building, taking a deep shaky breath. Okay, she steps into the shark tank. Yeonju claps her hands, commanding the room's attention. She loudly introduces Mina, announcing she's the newest addition to their little toxic family. You guys have definitely stalked her on social media, right? Well, brace yourselves. Mina is officially the new center for our upcoming girl group. The camera pans to Hyeon. Her jaw literally drops. Wait, director, hold up. What is this out-of-nowhere plot twist? I've been grinding my bones to dust for that center spot. For literally ages. Yeonju just waves her off with a fake plastic smile. Aw, Hyeon, you did great, sweetie, but Mina is taking the So, be a good girl and show her the ropes, yay? Yeonju pivots on her heels, casually tossing a good luck babes at Mina before exiting. Got it. Mina nods. Hyeon absolutely loses it. So what, daddy pulled some strings, she snarls. Mina gives her a blank, confused stare which only triggers Hyeon more. Oh, drop the act. You're the mayoral candidate's nepo baby, aren't you? Must be nice gliding through life on easy mode. You straight up hijacked my center spot. That I shed blood, sweat and tears over for 4 freaking years? Did you throw a tantrum and threaten to walk if you weren't the star? Mina just deadpans. Nope. Smack Hyeon goes feral, backhanding Mina across the cheek. The hell you mean nope? She shrieks. Let's see how far your daddy's cash carries you now, princess. Mina clutches her stinging face, a thin line of crimson oozing from a fresh scratch. Meanwhile, back in her office, Yeonju catches wind of the drama through the creepy twins. Whoa, that's savage. Is mom gonna glitch out? Hansu aggressively taps the monitor, squealing, Mom, look at the cam. Yeonju narrows her eyes. What's the crisis now? Hyeon just clawed Mina's face, Hansu shrieks. She's bleeding. Yeonju's face contorts into pure rage. That little rat is lower than garbage, she hisses. How dare that extra scratch up my brand new flawless vessel? Smash cut to a breezy park. A voice breaks the silence. Wait, so Mina is finally debuting Sick. Nox is a massive top-tier label. If we play our cards right, we can literally hijack the whole human realm. Cheyenne raises an eyebrow. Yo, Street, how do you know all this random lore? She flips her hair, smirking. Hello, I've been chilling in the human world for 200 years, rookie. Ravis crosses his arms, looking absolutely over it. Look, if my sister wants to play pop star, whatever. Not my circus, he scoffs. But that sketchy female director and her little entourage, they heavily piss me off. Zero demonic aura, yet those creeps stared me down without blinking. Dollars to donuts, they're demons playing dress-up among humans. Street chimes and facts. The longer a demon roughs it in the human realm, the better they get at cloaking their dark vibes. Better safe than sorry, honestly. And hey, boss Ravis, maybe stop giving off serial killer glares while you're driving Minho's meat suit. Shion nods in agreement. Preach. Bro, you're gonna get us canceled if you keep death-staring random NPCs. Ravis just scoffs. Whatever. They're sus as hell. Magic aura or not, a king always recognizes another monster in the room. Plus, we still can't track down Bauer. Shion sighs. Ravis immediately loses his temper, barking, Street drag this useless clown back to the underworld right now. Throw him into the most hardcore, agonizing boot camp we got. Street snaps a salute. Yes, sir, on it. Cheyenne panics, waving his hands wildly. Bro, chill with the empty threats. You and I both know the underworld's gates aren't just letting anybody walk in right now. Ravis grinds his teeth. Unbelievable, he thinks. Just because my demon bloodstone is nerfed, every random street dog thinks they can talk back to me. He turns his burning gaze to Street. Did you hack the code on fixing my bloodstone yet, or what? Street beams, radiating pride. You bet I did. Just like you ordered, boss. I found the cheat code to fully reboot Lord Ravis's ultimate mana. A sinister smirk spreads across his face. Perfect. Once I juice back up, you and Minion number 1 are gonna dig up every dirty secret on Han Yeonju and those freaky twins. Consider it done, boss, Street replies smoothly. Cheyenne just stands there blinking. Wait, am I Minion number 1 cut to the dead of night? Hyeon is trudging down a desolate alley, violently sobbing. She aggressively swipes a tear from her cheek. This is absolute garbage. It wasn't supposed to end up like this. 4 years of my life wasted. Suddenly shing. The chilling hum of cold steel echoes in the dark. Her blood runs cold. She spins around. Hello, who's creeping back there? From the shadow steps, Han-yong, his eyes hollow. Ha-yan stumbles backward, her voice trembling. Han-yong? What are you doing out here? Did I mess up? Look, if this is about Mina, I am so sorry. I just lost my temper, okay? In a flash, Han-yong lunges. A sickening slash echoes, and a spray of crimson paints the pavement. Standing over her, Han-yong tilts his head, whispering, "Why did you have to mess up her pretty—" Mom really hates that. Flashback to years ago. A wholesome couple is taking a romantic evening stroll. The guy affectionately ruffles his wife's hair. "Yeonju, babe. You shouldn't be out roaming around so late, it freaks me out." She flashes a warm, innocent smile. "Oh, stop. Hubby bought fried chicken for our little twin, and he's already racing back. How could I possibly just sit inside and wait?" Her husband laughs, melting at how ridiculously precious she is. Are the twins actually begging for a midnight snack, or is wifey just projecting her own cravings? She simply let out a sickeningly sweet little giggle in return. But right below the streets lurking inside of— Cut to later that night, Yeonju was tossing and turning, completely drenched in a cold sweat. Her eyes snapped open only to find Mara hovering dead center over her bed. The demon cracked a twisted smirk. Yeonju shrieked in absolute horror, totally freaking out. But Mara just shushed her dead in her tracks. "Keep it down, you're going to wake the whole block," she hissed. "And chill about the babies. I'll take real good care of them." She only wanted the twins. Yeonju squealed in pure terror, her mind racing. "No way! Stay away from my babies!" Her thrashing completely stopped the second Mara hijacked her flesh. A psychotic booming cackle ripped from her throat, jolting her hubby awake. "What in the world is that sound?" he mumbled, squinting at her in total confusion. Bam! Yeonju snatched his throat in a vice grip and dangled him straight out at the high-rise window. The poor guy squealed in pure panic. "Babe, what are you doing?" "Possessed," Yeonju just scoffed. "Wait, this loser is my husband. Dude looks absolutely vile. How did I even stomach living with a creep like this?" Tears streamed down the guy's face as he shrieked, "Who even are you?" She just peeled his desperate fingers off her wrist, deadpanning. "Like you need to know, buddy." The guy plummeted into the abyss, howling, "No, Yeonju!" Splat! Mara just clutched her massive baby bump, cackling like a total lunatic. "This vessel is officially mine," she gloated. Flash forward and a deafening shriek is tearing through the delivery room. Mara literally drop-kicked the doctor square in the jaw, screeching, "My gosh, this hurts like crazy!" The stunned OBGYN staggered back, yelling, "What are you doing?" "Calm down, you're giving birth," he pleaded. But Mara just barked at him to shut his mouth and yank these little monsters out of her right this second. "Rip them out before they take us all down," she snapped, cursing that absolute clown Inez for all this trauma. Fast forward a bit, and the doctor whispered, totally shook, What's wrong with these babies? This is impossible." A little later, Mara was grabbing her deflated stomach, throwing a massive tantrum. "This post-pregnancy body is straight up trash," she groaned. "Just look at this gross flabby gut. When is this going away?" Baby Hansu actually stretched his little hands toward her, cooing, "Mama!" She straight up booted the infant in the face and snarled, "You little parasite sucked away my magic, so pay up. How long are you going to pathetically crawl around? Hurry up and grow so you can act as my bodyguards. At least until I score a top-tier vessel that can actually handle my entire soul." Meanwhile, the neighborhood gossip mill was spinning like crazy. "Look, we get she's traumatized from her hubby passing away, but this is way out of line, don't you think?" One girl looked at Wir's friend and spilled the tea. "Pity has an expiration date, bestie. That is definitely not the Yeonju we used to know." Someone chimed in, "But wait, what about her twins? She keeps them totally hidden away," the gossiper scoffed. "Honestly, I bet she never even steps foot in that house." Another neighbor gasped, "But she struggled so hard to get pregnant, and she was glowing back then." Cut to Mara, gently stroking some random guy's jawline, purring. "So you work in broadcasting, huh? Does that mean you're surrounded by absolute hotties all day?" A sinister pitch-black fog started leaking from her lips as the guy stammered, Yeah, I guess so." He instantly passed out cold. Stepping over him, Mara's thoughts zeroed in on her. Even this dump of a human world was packed with gorgeous, youthful eye candy, and she was ready to snatch up every single one of them. "And one day, I'm going to rip Inez apart with my bare hands." Smash cut to the present, Mara was bawling her eyes out dramatically, sobbing, "Detective!" Hae Young was literally destined to be the main visual of the upcoming idol group. She was dripping with talent, literally an icon. Everyone worshipped her. The cop raised an eyebrow, asking if the victim had any beef with her fellow trainees. Any creepy stalkers on the radar? Mara suddenly hacked violently, wheezing out, "Well, that's just who she was." The detective stepped forward, asking, "Director, are you holding up all right?" Mara choked back sobs, playing the victim card hard. She coughed again, prompting Hansu to step in. "Officer, I think we're done here for today." The director basically raised her like her own flesh and blood. Han Yong smoothly suggested the cops go question the rest of the idol lineup first. Detective Cha nodded stiffly. "Got it, we'll get out of your hair." As they headed out, he muttered, "Detective Park Jong-un." "On it," she shot back. She whipped her head around, totally scanning this sketchy mother-son duo with heavy suspicion. The literal second the door clicked shut, vile bug-infested sludge erupted from Mara's mouth. She wiped the grime seething. Useless cops. What in the world are they sticking their noses in my business? How much did that brat bribe them with? Where are their superiors when you need them? Chill out, Mom. They'll just hit a dead end and give up, Hansu reassured her. But Mara was spiraling. This body is literally decaying. I'm rushing against the clock here. That little brat Hae-young actually had the audacity to wreck my prime vessel. Hansu pulled her into a tight hug, cooing, "Are you stressing out, Mom? Don't trip. I'll quickly prep young Minha's body for you." There's zero reason to panic, all right. Mara scowled deeply, but finally grumbled, "Fine, just hurry up and get the ritual started." Later on, random voices were gossiping in the background. "Dude, you heard the tea about Hae-young, right? What an absolute psycho." Hansu suddenly cut in with a smirk, asking, "Or maybe the other girl is the unhinged one. Honestly, the world is crawling with certified lunatics these days. I mean, who straight up attacks a high schooler with a knife in broad daylight. He's sweating over their safety, and the vibes seriously need a reset. They're all moving into a dorm starting tomorrow, so they'd better pack their bags." Mina blinked, completely lost. "A dorm? Is that actually necessary?" Hansu chimed in. "Got any actual reason to say no?" She crossed her arms. "I didn't realize idols living together was literally the law. They need to sync up and move as one," Mina argued. But internally, she was panicking. If she wasn't home, what about her mom and brother Han Yoon gave a tight nod, declaring, "She's asking for way too much, but if Mina fights it, she'll just force her hand." Hansu gripped her shoulders, begging her to chill out. Inside his head, he was screaming. What if she leaves even a single scratch on her face? Mom would literally end him. He pleaded with Mina to just play along. Han Yoon treated Ha-young like absolute royalty. She's on a hair trigger right now, so there's zero reason to piss off that nasty woman. Just nod and agree. Got it. The principal likely already briefed the parents, so they just need to grab their stuff and meet back here tomorrow. Got it. The girls mumbled in defeat. Mina spiraled just thinking about the dorm life. She was already freaking out, because her brother had been acting super weird lately. Cut to later, aggressive shouting echoed straight out of their house. Cheyenne was pumping iron, grunting like an absolute beast. Ravis deadpanned, watching him sweat. He seriously calls this training. His demonic aura was definitely leveling up. But even if he could overpower a regular human with that dark energy, fighting an actual demonic beast looking like this total suicide, Banbei is such a moron. If he wanted him to use this power, he should have at least taught him how to actually control the demon bloodstone. Flashback to Banbei, lounging on a bed, mumbling to himself that he should probably jot down a manual for the bloodstone. He scribbled a note. "To my absolute bestie Ravis, since you're still looking totally pathetic, here are 2 epic gifts. First, the ultimate guide to taming the demon bloodstone. Originally, this stone was built to hijack the magic of multiple creatures, but I hacked this one so it flawlessly transfers all the raw magic packed inside my soul straight into a human vessel. But here's the catch. This insane power only unlocks when the demon bloodstone gets completely shattered." Banbai giggled like a maniac. "And this baby will crack the second he takes a solid punch to the face." He kept scribbling. "And for gift number 2, I sent you that kid. Please don't be mad. Love you forever." He begged him to look out for their buddy. Banbei grinned, thinking to himself, "Perfect. Now I just gotta hand this letter over to Ravis, so he can read the instructions and get insanely strong." Plot twist. The MC never even bothered to read it. He just shredded it into confetti. Cut back to the present, Ravis was sweating through his work. If the secret code was actually hidden in that destroyed letter. Suddenly, a panicked shriek shattered the silence. "Street, Mr. Ravis! Mr. Ravis, we have a massive problem." The MC stared at her, totally thrown off. "Wait, is she?" He sighed. "What now?" Street panted, explaining that Han Yoon Ju, the lady he wanted intel on, and the twins. The MC raised an eyebrow. "Spit it out. What about them?" She gasped for air. "Mara? That director Han Yoon? She is literally Mara?" Xian blinked, totally lost. "Mara? Who the heck is that?" Street shrieked. "She's the Witch of Greed, one of the 12 Dark Dukes. Looks like Mara Beliax hijacked a human vessel and is crashing in this dimension." The MC flashed a wicked smirk. "So, that's where the rat's been hiding." Flashback to a demon realm groupie gushing Inez, the absolute most flawless goddess in the underworld. Even when she's dead silent, her lips are pure art. How can someone literally be that gorgeous? Inez hit them with a smug, elegant smile. "To unlock true beauty, one must first master the art of brutal honesty. Don't you agree?" The groupie practically melted. "Facts. Every single word you drop sounds like an angelic melody." Since she only ever spit the absolute truth, she was bound to just keep glowing up. Another demon chimed in, bragging that she was literally forcing her daughter to major in trash talk, just to catch a fraction of Lady Inez's vibe. She wanted to drill it into her kid's head that vocabulary is a deadly weapon, the ultimate flex of high society. Inez gracefully extended her hands toward the fangirls. "And that is exactly how I dropped the blessing of a silver tongue onto my ancient domain." The demon girl squealed in pure joy. Thank you, Lady Inez, you're an icon. Meanwhile, Mara watched the whole circus from the sidelines, glaring. What a load of absolute cringe, Mara muttered. A random girl nervously smiled at her. Miss Bellyax, you're looking totally stunning too. Mara offered a fake frosty thanks, and declared she'd toss a little blessing toward the girl's daughter as well. May she drop dead drowning in a pathetic bloody pool of her own sick cravings. The girl slapped her hands over her mouth, eyes blown wide in pure terror. Mara sneered internally. I'm engraving those words into my brain. I am definitely making you pay for this, Inez. Snap back to reality. Street tilted her head. So, Mara Bellyax basically had a massive inferiority complex because of Miss Inez. Ravis nodded. According to my mom, that beef has been cooking since they were kids. Though obviously my mom couldn't care less about the drama. Rumor has it the second she got promoted to one of the 12 Dark Dukes, she got busted trying to swipe the core source of demonic souls, and bolted to this human hellscape to hide. Xian pushed up his glasses, his eyes narrowing. But why would a witch like her specifically target Mina? Do you think she figured out my true identity as Ravis? The MC shook his head. Highly doubt it. If she knew who I was, she would have jumped me ages ago. Either way, stuck in this human meat suit, I'd get absolutely bodied by her right now. And her little minions probably built like tanks, too. Street's eyes went wide with panic. Then we need to buff the demon bloodstone, ASAP. I'm prepping the ritual right freaking now. Phase 1 of the witch hunt locking down the perimeter. Pacing the aisles of the store, Juhi broke the silence. Mina, if you want to bail, just say the word. The second Mina took this gig, chaos erupted. Juhi's gut was screaming that something was off. Flashing a reassuring smile, Mina brushed it off. Chill, Mom, it's all good. Boss Hansu swears they're closing in on the guy. Sounds like a totally random attack. Juhi sighed, bringing up how Mina had always obsessed over becoming a vet. Glancing at the stacked rows of dog kibble, Mina silently faced reality. The traditional route would just take way too long. Her only goal, dragging her mom out of that toxic nightmare of a house. Pasting on a brave face, she told her, Mom, wild opportunities like this don't just drop from the sky. Goals evolve. I'm gonna glow up, get super famous, and secure the bag. But Juhi wasn't having it. If you move into that dorm, we'll literally never see each other. Mina begged her not to stress. Once the elections wrap up, Step Monster will finally chill out. Juhi's face crumbled with guilt. Mina, I am so sorry. If I hadn't rushed into that marriage, you wouldn't be dealing with this trauma. Gently squeezing her mom's shoulder, Mina cut her off. Don't even go there. You had to raise me and my brother while you were basically still a kid yourself. You crushed it. Losing Dad was completely out of your control. Plus that guy played the perfect gentleman before he put a ring on it. He completely gaslit all of us. Oh, Mina, Juhi whispered. Smiling softly, Mina just asked for a little more time. I'm gonna make this work, promise. Cut to an amusement park where blood-curdling shrieks ripped through the air. Wiping spit from his chin, Minho scoffed. Humans are so fragile. What is the big deal? Xian side-eyed him. Dude, Minho, are you throwing up your lungs just because you've got demon DNA? I totally just ate some bad food, Minho snapped. Xian rolled his eyes, telling him to wipe the drool before talking. And why did you even drag us onto those rides anyway? Ravis groaned. Absolute nightmare fuel. I swear my legs are permanently jello. A bit later, the crew pulled up to a creepy rundown building, surrounded by withered trees. Minho shot Stid a look. You positive this is the spot? She didn't miss a beat. 100% master. Turns out some rogue demon locked up in the human realm had totally ghosted the radar, but her insane tracking skills locked onto his scent. Ravis crossed his arms. So, what's this creep's name? Stit's expression darkened. They call him Scream. His whole vibe twisting human terror into pure magical energy. He literally feeds off agonizing shrieks, converting sheer panic into demonic frequencies to buff his own stats. So the ultimate bait is throwing in the loudest, most dramatic screamer we've got. Minho's eyes lit up. Wait, seriously? He slowly turned to Xian. Bro, finally, you actually have a purpose. Xian squeaked, totally offended. Me, I have zero fears. I have literally never freaked out a day in my life. Ravis deadass grabbed Xian by the collar. Yeah, we'll discuss that inside. Panic instantly washing over him, Xian practically begged him to let go. Stit just waved them off. I'll hold down the fort out here. Stepping into the gloomy haunted house, Minho scoffed. Why are humans so triggered by this? It's literally cheap plastic. Xian shivered. Maybe because Stit totally psyched us out, but I swear the vibes in here are insanely cursed. Ravis cracked his knuckles. We're here to hunt, not hide. So quit crying! Out of nowhere, a prop head dropped from the ceiling, and Minho let out a high-pitched soul-leaving his booty shriek. Xian instantly clung to his arm, squealing right back. Then he blinked. Wait, did you just curse? You totally lost it just now, didn't you? Shut your mouth! Minho barked, ears burning. I was totally acting, just baiting the enemy. For the record, I have never screamed in my life. Pushing up his glasses, Xian muttered, Right, sure. But is this insane strategy really our best bet? Minho leveled his gaze. Every time dark energy spikes, in this world, the demonic bloodstone drips a fraction of its power. Meaning if we absorb the pure concentrated malice of a demon way more potent than some human, we can unlock a massive surge of the bloodstone's juice. Suddenly, a spine-chilling voice echoed from the shadows. That little shriek, rich like fresh blood, pure as a newborn's wail. Shion froze, staring into the dark. Bro, what? What the heck is that? Scream emerged, licking his lips. Absolutely delicious! Let the kid squeal! Make it louder! Trembling Shion stammered. Minho! This is the guy, right? Minho fiercely smacked Scream's reaching hand away. Back off. He's my minion. Scream tilted his twisted head. And what exactly are you? Not entirely human, are we? Smirking Ravis stepped up, taunting the monster. Why don't you stick around and find out what kind of noise I can rip out of your throat? Scream burst into psychotic laughter. You really think a pathetic little bug can take me? With a flick of his wrist, he swatted Minho into the wall and snatched up Shion, who instantly wailed, Minho! Scream shivered with delight. Perfect, keep it coming. Ravis scowled, clicking his tongue in frustration. Great now, I'm basically fighting one-handed. He lunged straight for the demon who mocked him. Where do you think you're going? Scream blasted Ravis back, while Shion shrieked at Minho to watch his six. Flooding the room with dark mana, Scream locked onto Shion. Yes, rip those vocal cords, Ravis bellowed. Dude, shut your trap. You're literally feeding him buffs with every squeak. Slapping both hands over his own mouth, Shion mumbled a muffled apology. Scream threw his head back and cackled. Ah, those eyes, drowning in absolute terror. I'm turning your bones into earrings, the monster sneered. But MC easily slipped past the strike. Clenching his fists, he smirked and challenged the beast, asking who exactly he thought was trembling in fear. The hero launched a counterattack, but Scarum just let out a booming cackle. Oh, look at the little human flailing his pathetic stuff. Absolutely adorable, just precious. Inside his head, MC cursed his own movements, realizing his vertical leap was currently as trash as an average human's. Trapped in this mortal meat suit, he couldn't even wipe the floor with a low-tier fiend. Scarum viciously snatched Ravis up in his grip, while Shion stood paralyzed, covering his face, trying desperately to choke down a terrified wail. Minho! He panicked inwardly. MC thrashed against the demon's hold, letting out a sharp yell, which only— I forged this blade using your buddy's wailing. This one has your name on it. If I dig out your gray matter with this, I wonder what kind of delicious melody you'll sing. MC glared absolute daggers. You ugly freak, I'm not giving you the satisfaction. Scarum tilted his head mockingly. Oh, really? Let's put that— He aggressively lunged his razor-sharp fingertips straight toward MC's pupil, plunging it right into his eyeball. Watching in absolute horror, Shion's mind suddenly shattered fragments cascaded down to the dirt. Scarum froze, staring at the boy in pure utter confusion. MC hit him right back with a savage, "What the— Wait, did his pupils just flash back in the day that Genius Baka left a note explaining how he tweaked the demonic bloodstone? He hotwired it to seamlessly pump the dark energy, boiling inside his wrathful soul, straight into a fragile human vessel. But the catch was, this insane power boost would only unlock the moment that exact bloodstone got smashed to pieces. A dark smirk crept across Ravis's face as he realized, Baka, you absolute madman, so you hid the trigger condition right there. Baffled as Scarum stumbled back. What kind of trick is this? Why the hell can't my claws pierce a squishy mortal eyeball? MC violently swiped his arm outward and roared that he was far from just some ordinary flesh bag. Scarum's gaze sharpened into slits. MC practically ripped his vocal cords, yelling, Shion, stop holding back. Let it out. Scream your lungs out. Shion, are you crazy? That'll just buff his stats even more? But Ravis snapped at him to cut the chatter and just start shrieking. Shion balled his fists so hard, his knuckles— He had zero clue what crazy strategy his friend was cooking up. But Minho was his absolute only hope. Yanking in a massive gulp of air, he unleashed an ear-shattering, terrified shriek. Scarum vibrated with pure twisted joy. Ah, the sweet symphony of terror. Meanwhile, MC mentally calculated his odds. Now that the demonic bloodstone was officially triggered, the magical lock trapping his right eye was finally crumbling away. Shion kept violently screaming his head off, fueling Scarum's manic laughter. You absolute clown, you're literally feeding— Your cocky attitude just dug your own grave. But MC just flashed a predatory grin. You actually drop your speed when you're gulping down fear, don't you? Caught off guard. Scarum. Wait, huh? Ravis totally flipped the script, roaring, now you're gonna listen to my battle cry. He launched himself into the air, driving a brute— He felt it pulsing in his veins. The outer shell of the bloodstone was shattered, and the rush of magic was undeniable. If he just kept soaking up this fiend's toxic malice, his god-tier stats would skyrocket back to max capacity. A dense cluster of dark mana hovered around them before evaporating into his skin. MC's eyes glinted. Just as he calculated, he was hoarding pure raw energy that zero human medicine could ever replicate. With the bloodstone's absolute restriction completely wiped out, his only mission was to sponge up pure evil until his legendary aura fully respawned. Xian's voice shook like a leaf as he stammered. That monstrous I swear that thing just swallowed him whole. Are you seriously unharmed? Ravis flashed an insanely arrogant smile. Obviously. Come on, we've got another demon to hunt down and consume. Cut to a totally different vibe inside a dim room where Mina softly bowed and muttered. Vice Principal Han Yong gave a stiff, cold nod. Get your bags unpacked. You are strictly forbidden from leaving this dorm until the boot camp officially kicks off. Mina shrank back, whispering a fragile, understood. Han Yong aggressively slammed the door shut, leaving her in dead silence. Pressing her lips into a hard line, she squeezed her. I'm gonna crush this. But as she tilted her head up, a creepy surveillance lens stared right back from the ceiling corner. Meanwhile, Mara literally reached her hand through. Mommy has been incredibly stressed out about you. He pulled her into a tight embrace as she whispered, even if my soul hijacks that new vessel, you'll still be a good boy and follow Mommy's orders. Han Seo's eyes looked completely dead as he replied, without a doubt, Mother. The dark ritual instantly kicked off. Man, that heavy metallic stench of blood is seriously intoxicating. She bowed deeply, totally hyping him up for finally getting his supreme sovereign over the blood of all breathing creatures, Lord Ravis Vindica, may rivers of crimson paint the earth wherever your boots tread. I, your loyal servant Stid, swear to morph into your absolute stalking right behind you into the deepest, darkest abyss. MC rolled his eyes, telling her to dial down the dramatic theater kid energy. He barked out a command demanding of their next prey. He also assigned her a solo quest pinpoint Mara's exact location, so he could personally obliterate that witch. The very second his max health was fully restored, Stit hit him with a crisp, on it boss. Next up was a seriously messed up demon that fumes exhaled from human lungs. Enter APF. This grotesque freak was literally hovering right next to a chain smoker inhaling the secondhand cloud while giggling like a maniac. Yeah, keep puffing, give me more. Out of absolutely nowhere, MC blitzed in snatching Apt right by the scalp and dragging him into the alley. The creature flailed in sheer panic, choking out, what the hell is happening? MC mercilessly body slammed the fiend into the concrete pavement, scoffing, your worst nightmare. Seriously, you reek like a walking ashtray. Cut to the next target, a parasitic freak that literally leeches the life force out of blackout drunk humans. Ravis ruthlessly sliced the monster into absolute confetti, wiping his blade and groaning about the foul garbage-like stench. Xian looked around, totally shell-shocked. Bro, I seriously had no idea the human realm was infested with this many literal. But why do these creeps even need to siphon off our energy to survive? MC shot him a side-eye and broke down the lore. Any fiend that illegally crosses the border into Earth immediately gets their magic completely nerfed. So, if they don't leech off human vibes, it's straight up game over for them. They either snag a new host or they get wiped from existence. Xian gulped, his voice trembling. I get it. So, demonic possession wasn't just some creepy urban legend, Ravis smirked, sensing the energy. The mana levels are peaking. Let's give it a test run. Xian's jaw dropped as suffocating dark magic exploded from Ravis. Wait, Mina, what the heck is that? I'm finally getting it back. Our MC smirked, flexing his dark aura. My demonic power, Raku. Even if it's just a fraction. Xian whipped around, panicking. Bro, is it seriously safe to send Strix out solo? Ravis waved him off. Chill. Her mana signature is basically 0, so the enemies won't even sense her creeping up. Cut to Strix, who was currently hanging upside down from a creepy dead branch, totally rocking her bat form. Her tiny bat eyes snapped open as her stomach fiercely growled. I'm literally starving. I'm gonna drop dead from hunger at this rate. Suddenly, she locked onto a target. Jackpot, she dive-bombed through the air, snatching up a grotesque wriggling maggot. Gotcha, you nasty little freak. But as she chewed, her tiny bat face scrunched up in disgust. Ew, what is this flavor? It hit her. This wasn't just a bug, it was oozing with Mara's toxic magic. She had to warn Lord. Meanwhile, a sketchy car peeled out of a dark parking lot. In the back seat, Hansu gripped the unconscious Mina by the shoulders, desperately chanting, Mother, Mother. I knocked her out cold. I did good, right? Mara's sinister laughter echoed. Yes, my sweet boy. Now step on it. Hansu barked at Hanyan. Floor it, go, go. As Mina groggily blinked her eyes open, the scene cuts back to Strix, who was screeching at the top of her lungs, with a gross demonic worm dangling from her jaws. Spit the damn bug out before you speak, the MC groaned, rubbing his temples. I can't understand a single word you're squawking. Poof, Strix shifted back into her human form, shoving the nasty grub forward. Lord Ravis, you gotta look at this. The MC squinted in disgust. What even is that? It smells like absolute garbage, Strix gagged. These are totally Mara's parasites. It looks like when that witch crossed into our dimension, she lost her original form and hijacked a human meat suit. The MC's eyes narrowed. If her parasites are leaking out, it means her current vessel is rotting. She's hunting for a fresh body. A human shell just can't handle Mara's heavy demonic soul. Xian gasped in absolute horror. Wait, so that time she tried to recruit Mina, was she plotting to steal her body? Ravis crossed his arms, his face twisting with pure disgust. Highly likely. That hag has always been insanely obsessed with claiming anything. Young and beautiful, he scoffed, rolling his eyes. Like she's literally ancient, older than my own mother. That crazy old bat seriously needs to chill out. Cheyenne blinked, totally lost. Exactly how old is your mom? The MC, Giddy shrugged casually. Converted to human years, roughly 6,375. Cheyenne's brain short-circuited. Wait, then how freaking old are you? Ravis frowned, genuinely trying to do the math. How old am I? My uncle took me on a field trip to the human realm. The mortals were busy stacking giant rocks. A flashback shows a booming Varkan laughing his head off. Look at that, Varkan had cheered. Those humans are building a massive temple just for me, even a low-tier demon god like myself. I could only dream of this kind of hype, you seeing this, nephew? Little Ravis had just stared back, totally unamused, thinking the whole thing was super lame. Then deadpan Bambi chimed in. Lord Varkan, pretty sure those mortals aren't worshipping you. Oh, they're worshipping the sun god Ra from the heavenly realm. Varkan instantly snapped, yanking Bambi by the hair. The heck? Why are they simping for that loser I beat to a pulp? Bambi winced. Bro, how am I supposed to know? Varkan roared. Whatever, I won the fight, so that giant triangle is mine. He burst into booming laughter, crushing the two boys in a giant bear hug. Snapping back to the present, Cheyenne looked pale. Dude, the pyramids were built over 4,000 years ago. That is way beyond anything I imagine. Panic set in as Strix cried out, Boss, what's the game plan? Your little sister is about to become Mara's midnight snack. The MC nodded grimly, his mind. If we don't move fast, Mina is dead meat. Fast forward to a creepy abandoned construction site. Mara gazed up at the pitch-black sky. A moonless night? The exact same conditions as the night I was born. Absolute crushing darkness. Hansu glanced around the eerie ruins. Mother, leaning heavily on Hanyan, Mara slowly dragged herself up the concrete stairs. Yes, my child. The exact bleeding edge where the demon realm, a blind spot completely hidden from those arrogant heavenly gods. Suddenly she stopped dead in her tracks, her eyes bulging with shock. What in the world? The floor was absolutely littered with rotting corpses, bizarre glowing flowers sprouting violently from their flesh. From the shadows stepped Bale, glaring at them with pure annoyance. Why are you crashing my turf? And what the hell even are you freaks? Mara stood tall, oozing dark authority. I am Mara Belial, and this flesh is my chosen vessel. Bale's jaw dropped as he recoiled. Wait, you're Mara. Then a cocky smirk spread across his face. The grand demon who used to sit on the black throne? Look at you now, a pathetic fugitive who can't even summon a basic mob. This is my territory now, Granny, so get lost. Hansu aggressively stepped up to one of the flower-stuffed corpses, kicking it. Who are these bozos? Watch your damn feet, Bale snapped, eyes flaring. Do not step on my precious blooms. Mara let out a heavy, tired sigh. He's right. I'm a shadow of my former. I barely have enough juice left to keep this fragile meat suit together. But that's exactly why I bred my sweet children to act as my ultimate meat shields. Bale scoffed in disbelief. Demon-human hybrids? A parent hiding behind their own runts is just pathetic. Mara's eyes flashed with cold malice. Why should you care I gave them life? It's only fair they pay me back with their absolute obedience. Now take your stinking little weeds and scram, she hissed. Bale's face twisted into pure unhinged rage. We'd you dare insult my sacred flower? He lunged forward, screaming, why doesn't anyone appreciate true art? But before he could land a hit, Hansu brutally roundhouse kicked him right in the jaw. Back off, loser. A while back, Mara was practically throwing a pity party. She'd busted her ass stealing the source of demonic souls. Shoving a vial of glowing liquid down those kids' throats, she commanded them to chug. Now, this source, it's pure unfiltered water, straight from the Zarnikum Valley. Literally the most abyssal trench in the Underworld. We're talking a cursed wasteland flooded with the actual tears of the creator god. This stuff is basically liquid mana, the ultimate holy grail and the only thing capable of satisfying her massive ego. But get this Gamater Vindica straight up hijacked the source, acting like he owned the place. What a toxic clown. Honestly, huge bummer, but it is what it is. For now she needed these half pints to chug the juice and act as her meat shields until she tracked down Sir Kale in the mortal realm. Cut to Spirit and the squad sprinting through the deep woods. Panting, Shion double-checked. Yo, are you absolutely positive they came this way? Spirit didn't miss a beat. Mara's foul stench is getting totally overwhelming. They're here, 100%. Shion looked around confused. Bro, who even builds a hideout out here in the boonies? Spirit just exhaled heavily, her nose completely fried from the stench. Shion then grabbed Minho by the collar, desperate. Dude, you better pull through and save Mina. Minho, we're going, but Shion wasn't having it. Wait, this guy's coming too. He's just gonna drag us down. Overhearing this, Ravis raised an eyebrow. Drag you down, please. He's gonna make a top-tier meat shield. Shion blinked, totally horrified. A shield! Spirit practically lost her mind, shrieking, I am literally begging you wipe Mara off the map. Our MC just smirked and dragged her into the fray too, saying they needed the extra bodies. Spirit squeaked, "Wait, me too." She was totally regretting her life choices right now. She had cash, she had clout. Why didn't she just stay comfortably benched with Lord Bombay? Inside the sketchy lair, Mina was passed out on the cold floor, an ominous magic circle glowing right underneath her. Mara was totally vibing, purring, "Yes, perfection. Pick up the pace." Meanwhile, Bauer was groveling on his hands and knees, straight up sobbing for the Witch of Greed to spare his life. He pitched his worth-sweating bullets to survive in this human dimension. But Hansu cut in, begging his mom to just hand the pathetic loser over. The dude was already a massive headache. "Just let me trash him," he grumbled. Bauer frantically nodded, desperate. "Yes, please. I'll be your ultimate errand boy. Just say I'll do anything." But suddenly a chilling voice echoed through the room. "Wow, what a messy little squad we have here. A backstabbing rat. A washed-up fugitive exiled for being too greedy, and some low-tier half-breed twins. You guys belong in the same trash can." Mara whipped around, her eyes widening. "You..." Hansu was totally caught off guard. "Wait, Mina's big, bro." Behind Ravis Xian. "But bro, are those dead bodies actually real?" Our MC casually glanced at a lifeless lump nearby. "Ah, young Moo. Well, there's your answer. Listen up, Im Xian. If I hadn't bailed you out earlier, you'd be cosplaying a corpse right next to him. So, do us both a favor and follow my exact orders. We clear..." Xian violently nodded, totally traumatized. He thought, "This is so messed up. This is the real deal. The actual demon world." Bauer scowled, clearly annoyed. "Wait, you know young Moo, does that mean you're the punk who sabotaged my master plan?" Mara narrowed her eyes, smirking. "I freaking knew it. You're way too edgy to be just some normal human." Hansu chimed in. "See, told you my radar never misses. You realize who we're looking at, right?" That's when Spirit stepped up, chest puffed out, and absolutely shrieked. "Put some respect on his name. The absolute menace who wiped out the entire Bauer bloodline before getting nerfed and banished to this realm. He is the one and only VIP heir to the absolute power, the Demon King himself." Mara's jaw literally dropped. "Hold up. What Ravis Vindica? The golden boy of that hag, Inez. Bauer Ravis, the freaking Grim Reaper who nuked my entire clan?" He froze for a second, the gears turning in his head. Wait a minute. This was the ultimate clutch moment. Right now, this guy wasn't the untouchable boss monster Ravis. He was just a nerfed soul trapped in a squishy human meat suit. He could actually solo him and avenge his family. Meanwhile, Mara was fuming. "Inez, you absolute joke of a woman. You seriously thought you could sabotage my hustle by dropping your own kid into the mortal realm." The MC quickly assessed the room. "Damn it. With my stats this low, I can't take on all three of them at once. And that rat Bauer is definitely going to try to backstab me." He decided to bench the weak link for now. Locking eyes with Bauer, he barked at him to get lost. Bauer completely snapped. "You think you're still the big bad boss of the Underworld? I'm ending your whole career right here, right now." The MC flared his aura and roared, "Shut your mouth. Unless you want to get one-shotted, walk away." Bauer visibly flinched, letting out a pathetic squeak, as Ravis locked onto him with killer intent. "You go deliver a message to every single bottom feeder demon in this dimension have spawned in the human world as the Lord of Blood. Tell them to stay completely silent until I return, unless they want me to personally delete their existence." Bauer's face went totally pale. "Wait, what? You can actually cast magic in a human vessel? How is that even possible?" He instantly booked it toward the exit, screaming, "Screw this." Our MC turned back. "If you wanted a glow-up to look younger, you're gonna have to grind through some absolute agony. You don't get to just hack the system and hijack other people's bodies." Mara's face contorted in pure rage. "Boomer, you absolute punk! Who do you think you're talking to?" Suddenly, she hacked up a mouthful of black blood. Hansu panicked, rushing to her side. "Mom, chill. You're pushing yourself way too hard." She viciously wiped the blood off her chin, a twisted smile forming. I know. But my curiosity is killing me. Inez literally worshipped the ground this brat walked on. So what kind of mental breakdown will she have when my kids rip him to shreds?" Ravis just let out a cold, arrogant smirk. "You know what, I was wondering the exact same thing. How hard are you gonna cry when you realize your precious brats got packed up by the son of the woman you've been insanely jealous of your whole life?" "You half-bloods," Mara sneered, looking at the twins. "Hansu Hanyong, which one of you is going to rip out this arrogant punk's tongue for mommy?" "Morphing his chains into a brutal mace," Hansu replied. "Say less, Mom. Just sit back and watch." Meanwhile, Hanyong unsheathed her blade, flooding it with crackling mana. Hansu snapped at his sister to back off, bragging his venom blade was more than enough to silence this clown. He whipped it forward, aiming a lethal strike, but our boy effortlessly sidestepped the blow. Annoyed, Hanyong slashed her own sword and barked at her brother to stay out of her way. "Get lost! You're crowding me!" Hansu roared back. Hanyong matched his rage, telling him to zip it and watch his own six. Our MC smirked. Their teamwork was absolute garbage, and he was totally going to exploit it. He mocked them, betting they'd rip each other's throats out before they ever laid a finger on him. Hansu shrieked in frustration. Watch it. You almost clipped me. Ravis clocked their messy dynamic. They were literally sabotaging each other's attacks. Hansu's bloated ego clashing with Hanyang's cynical vibe, a match made in hell. Blocking Hanyang's strike, he fluidly parried, redirecting her blade straight into her brother's weapon. You smacked me again! Hansu whined furiously. Hanyang clicked her tongue, and our MC lunged. Even as half-bloods, their raw power was insane. He wondered just what kind of sick experiments Mara ran on these twins. Move it, Hanyang! Hansu bellowed wildly, swinging his weapon. I'm slicing this loser's tongue off myself. As he charged, Hanyang scoffed. Yeah, right. I'm taking his whole head. MC twisted away, barely escaping the crossfire, though a stray hit still nicked him. Hanyang's eyes widened. How did he dodge that? Hansu lashed out again, throwing a massive tantrum. Tresh! I almost died right there. Back off, his life is mine. But the twins rushed him at the exact same time, and Hanyang unleashed a burst of raw mana, screaming at him to drop dead. Ravis shoved them back, creating some breathing room. Knowing he was running on fumes against two powerhouses, he decided to play dirty and trigger them. Wow, your older sister is cracked, he taunted. Who are you calling the sister? Hansu absolutely lost his mind. I was born 18 minutes before her. I'm ending you. MC grinned so effective. The enraged brother began swinging blindly, making Hanyang completely lose her cool. You brain-dead moron, why are you rushing into close combat? Hansu told her to shut it. They were dragging this guy's corpse to mom first. Bet MC thought. The duo's attacks grew wilder, pure chaos. But Hansu had dragged himself right into his strike zone. Ravis drove his blade straight over Hansu's skull. Right then, Stree launched herself at Mara, screaming, Lady Mara of the 12 Black Thrones, I used to respect you so much. She cried out that Mara couldn't keep her greed in check, and transformed into a terrifying, twisted monster. What a total letdown, Mara snarled. Who are you calling a monster, you pathetic little pest? Squeezing her eyes shut, Stree sent a mental flare. Now's your chance, Lord Shion! Fist clenched tight, he sprinted forward, slamming his hands against the barrier, trapping Minna. It's burning, no. Freezing, he gasped, the bizarre sensation searing his skin. Shutting his eyes tight, he screamed her name. Please wake up. Trading blows with Mara, Stree fought like a demon, desperate to buy them every single second she could. Lord Shion, you have to save her. But the barrier violently repelled Shion, sending him crashing backward. Panting heavily, he stared at his blistered red palms. He gritted his teeth. He knew he was just an ordinary human, totally powerless here, but there was no way he was giving up. We're getting you out of there, Minna, Shion roared, throwing his whole body into another desperate punch against the dome. Right then, Mara's grotesque tentacles brutally swatted Stree aside. She scoffed, wondering if she should finally end this sad, little demon game. Groaning, Stree realized the horrific truth. Even in that decaying, rotted body, Mara's raw power was off the charts. She hadn't been crowned one of the 12 Black Thrones for nothing. What's wrong? Mara taunted, tentacles thrashing. Did you really think, just because I look like this, I'd be easy prey? Stree slammed into the stone wall, screaming in agony. Mara coldly ordered her to keep her eyes peeled, and witnessed this little worm's pathetic demise. Panic flooded Stree's voice. No, Master Shion. Get out of there. He glanced over, confused, just before a wave of thick, vile sludge slammed him into the dirt. He screamed in agony. As Mara told him to hold his horses, she was just siphoning him as a living battery. Struggling against the sludge, Shion tried to push himself up, but his limbs were completely paralyzed. Shifting her focus, Mara extended a wicked hand toward the trapped Minna. Leaking dark mana, she growled that these gnats had wasted enough of her time. She rapidly weaved multiple hand seals and chanted at the top of her lungs, I swear by the soul-cleaving blade and the crescent of oaths, I reject this rotting shell. Let the fires of avarice scorch these veins and pave the way. Shatter the gates of the heart and flip the cycle of life. Let the shadows heed my call. The pact is fulfilled. Minna's eyes snapped open, glowing a blinding toxic purple. Ravis witnessed the horror and yelled, Nightmare, funneling pure mana into his blade. He went full throttle, diving straight at the twins. As he closed the gap, Hanyang shrieked for him to stop, while Hansu let out a panicked no. Out of nowhere, a razor-thin thread of pure energy materialized, wrapping tightly around him and locking his body in place. He let out a terrified scream, but before he could even yell, What? A strip of white tape slapped over his mouth, sending him crashing to the floor. He thrashed around, muffled words dying in his throat. He simply pressed a finger to her lips, shushing him. Glancing down, she whispered, Are we seriously crossing the line, torturing Ravis's brother like this? Meanwhile, Mara's essence slithered straight toward Minna's unconscious form. The hostile soul fully hijacked Minna's vessel. A sinister echoing cackle erupted from her throat. Finally, she gloated, I've finally snagged absolute perfection. Rising gracefully beside Yunju's lifeless corpse, she smirked. Now, this is a top-tier upgrade. Reaching her arms out to test the fit, she reveled in the sensation. This feeling, it's absolutely electric. I'm going to flex this flawless aesthetic for eternity. Jian shrieked in pure panic. No way, Stree cried out. Miss Mina! Han Young lunged fiercely at MC, snapping, Keep your eyes on me! MC roared back. This is an absolute nightmare. His face twisted in agonizing frustration. He was totally too late. Peeking out from behind a corner, Jai-hee squealed like a total fangirl. Ravis's brother. Those gorgeous lips, she mumbled, her cheeks flushing crimson. His aesthetic right now is literally everything. MC threw his hand forward, shouting a fierce command, while the girl gripped her fists mentally, slapping herself back to reality. Get it together. Beltia, brother is literally facing a death sentence. But stepping out means Ravis's brother would catch her creeping. The sheer cringe of that thought made her face burn, yet she couldn't just stand there simping. What was the play here? Hansu cautiously scanned the room, attempting a stealthy escape, but Han Young locked eyes on him, thinking, Wait, Hansu, who the hell wrecked him like that? MC slashed his blade through the air, his mind screaming, It's go time! As he blitzed toward her, she shrieked, Mom, it's that loser Hansu? Mara casually shifted her gaze to Hansu, asking, What's his deal? She pried his mouth open, and he hollered frantically, Where did that absolute moron vanish to? Suddenly the guy leapt out from the shadow. Mara let out a dark chuckle. Well, looks like we have a little rat scurrying about. Hansu stammered, Mom, did you actually pull it off? Mara spread her arms like a queen and, Well, how do you like my new drop-dead gorgeous vibe? Hansu scrambled to agree, nodding furiously. Yes, you look. Inside he was sweating. She literally looked nothing like her old self. Xian muttered grimly, Damn it, Was this really game over? Stree's voice pierced the despair. Lord Ravis, don't give up. Miss Mina's soul hasn't been completely wiped out. MC whipped his head around, stunned. Wait, what? Strea shouted back. It's a pitch-black night, when the moon goes completely dark, and the firewall between the mortal realm and the demon world completely glitches out. Magic contracts and souls become extremely volatile. Until the sun comes up, Mara's possession ritual is basically stuck at 99%. Lady Mina's soul is totally still fighting inside. Right on cue, Mina's voice broke through screaming, Brother Minho, my body is moving on autopilot. Please, you have to save me. Ravis snapped his gaze toward the vessel, his heart racing. Is that really Mina fighting back? Mara burst into a psychotic fit of laughter. Hilarious. Don't I sound exactly like the real Mina? MC's blood boiled. This twisted freak is actually mocking him right now. Mara stretched lazily. Hanyoung Hansu, I'm getting so bored. Let's just wipe them all out. Hansu barked eagerly. Say less, Mom. It was an absolute death match now, and they were ready to hunt down that rat and finish the job. MC went into overdrive, desperately parrying their relentless strikes, cursing himself internally. Was he seriously going to get bodied by these pathetic half-breeds and take this massive OL? Mara purred. Have you guys been waiting patiently? Because I'm absolutely starving for a tasty snack to level up my power. Strea scowled in pure disgust while Mara ran a tongue over her lips, scanning the room. Now, who gets to be the appetizer? Cheyenne stared at the demonic entity, completely paralyzed. When Mara spotted a weird round object chilling on the floor, she tilted her head confused just before a tiny hologram of MC popped out of the gadget, unleashing a blinding burst of raw mana. Mara shrieked, totally caught off guard. What the hell is that? MC whipped around, his mind spinning. No way. Swearing violently, Mara shielded her eyes, gagging at the overwhelming stench of the attack. Through the chaos, a blurry figure dashed straight towards Stree, brutally yanking out the heavy spikes pinning her to the stone wall. Stree let out an agonizing scream, and as she collapsed, the rescuer slapped a high-tech weapon into her hands before sprinting over to Cheyenne, screaming at him to fire it. Catching a glimpse of her savior's face, Stree's jaw literally dropped. It was freaking Jai-hee. She tore Xian away from his restraints, shoved the chaotic weapon into his grip, and begged him to back up Ravis. He was completely shook. Backing away from her, he stared at the wicked firearm like it was a live grenade. Meanwhile, Stree inspected her own hands, utterly baffled. Wait, isn't this tech forged straight from demonic energy? How did Jai-hee even secure this kind of loot? Xian was equally lost. He gripped the heavy blaster, questioning why he was the one holding it. The weapon pulsed with a raw, toxic, demonic aura, and instantly the dark energy snaked up his arms and swallowed his entire body. He unleashed his instincts screaming that this was a massive mistake. His heart hammered in his chest. His brain felt like it was short-circuiting, and the air was instantly choked from his lungs. Mara, recovering from the blast, glared at the leftover explosive and snapped, Where the hell did that drop from? What is your sketchy little squad planning? In a flash, Stree launched out of the thick smoke, aiming for a kill shot, but Mara reflexively swatted her away like a bug, sneering. Did you seriously think snapping some plastic toys onto your hands would actually change the endgame here? This isn't some cheap toy, she shrieked. Mara just threw her head back and cackled. Please, the ending is already set in stone. He's just some pathetic, trashed, lesser monster, Street fired back. Rich coming from someone who sold their own soul for pure greed. Don't you dare preach to me. Street's blade sliced right through the squirming tentacle. Unfazed, Mara simply stretched her arm to the side. Smirking, the villainess teased, "Oh, so it's not just a plaything, whatever. Once I devour everything in sight, it won't matter anyway." With a violent flick of her wrist, Mara whipped a fresh tentacle forward. Street threw herself out of the way, dodging by a hair. Street went for a counterattack, but her blade bounced right off. The flesh was hardening like steel. Mara was actually adapting to this new host body. Dragging this out was a massive death trap for our crew. Mara playfully waved her hands around, purring about how delicious a shaking fresh little monster would taste. Right then, Street's eyes locked onto a critical detail. A grotesque umbilical cord was tethered straight to Yoonju. Glancing at the dome, Street's mind raced. Mina was totally normal. Her human body couldn't absorb Mara's overwhelming essence instantly. That split-second distraction cost Street big time. Mara smacked her aside like a ragdoll, sending her crashing hard into the concrete. Groaning, Street realized she had to sever that twisted lifeline linking to Yoonju's shell. If only there was a way to shatter that glowing magic circle. Meanwhile, Xian finally snapped back to reality. Catching his breath, he locked eyes on his gun, wondering how to even use the damn thing. Scanning the battlefield, his gaze shifted to the dome, zeroing in on that pulsing umbilical cord. His eyes darted straight to Mara. Wait, Yoonju's still linked to the tentacles, he realized. That means the body transfer into Mina isn't finished. The magic circle was acting as a firewall, protecting the host body until the download was complete. They still had a shot. He just had to nuke that barrier. Suddenly his pupils morphed, glowing with raw data. He was literally reading the magic circle's blueprint. It wasn't mystic voodoo, it was straight-up geometry. His fingers flew across his digital control panel on autopilot. Geometry means shapes and shapes break down into formulas. Strip away the fantasy, and a magic circle is nothing but cold, hard math. This specific array was the bridge between Yoonju and Mina. All he had to do was crack the equation and expose the back door. Punching the variables into his system, he mapped it out. The barrier's formula A, classic cubic polynomial. The monocore was flowing in a massive S-shaped curve. The sweet spot holding it all together was hiding right at the extremum. Time to run a differentiation. Catching the glitchy light from his screen, Street's jaw dropped. Wait, is he writing a magic formula? Is this guy literally hacking a magical barrier? Thanks to Jin. He's tricked out gear. Xian was actually debugging pure magic. Wham! Mara whipped her with a tentacle, mocking her to come closer. Street gritted her teeth, swallowing the pain, knowing that whatever happened, she had to tank these hits and buy Xian enough time to crack the code. Meanwhile, our tech genius was in the endgame. He translated the magical grid into a digital matrix, isolating the main diagonal. And since it was a perfectly symmetrical matrix, isolating the eigenvalue revealed its single glaring weak point. A wild grin spread across his face. Bingo. The critical node was totally exposed. Without missing a beat, he leveled his cannon dead center at the magic circle and pulled the trigger. "The local minimum is right here," he roared. A blinding beam of pure energy blasted out. The massive recoil sent Xian flying onto his back, as the explosive laser completely pulverized the protective dome into glittering dust. Sensing the crash, Mara whipped around in absolute shock. Xian tumbled across the debris-covered floor. "What the hell did you do to my circle?" the monster shrieked in pure rage. Barking out a triumphant laugh, he wiped his face. "I ran the numbers, sweetheart, and the math doesn't lie. It all played out exactly like my formula predicted." The indestructible barrier was officially wiped out. As the glowing residue faded into nothing, Xian's vision started going dark. Mara was violently losing her mind, caught between sheer panic and murderous rage, because her soul transfer was abruptly canceled, mid-download. "You did insane out there, kid," Street whispered. "I'll handle the rest." Seeing the assassin dash straight for Yoonju's helpless shell, Mara— "What are you doing?" she shrieked. Street leaped up and ruthlessly drove her razor-sharp claws deep into Yoonju's host body, making Mara squeal in absolute terror. "Are you insane?" the villainess wailed violently, lashing out. Her tentacles slammed into Street like a freight train, launching her straight into the rubble. Desperate, she scrambled over to Yoonju's bleeding body. No, 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 you are not ruining my masterpiece," she sobbed, frantically clutching the torn flesh. "This is my flawless vessel. I won't let you butcher a single drop of this flesh." Coughing up blood, Street forced herself onto her feet, chuckling darkly. Greed is like a towering tree monster. Eventually it snaps under its own damn weight. "And your broken little branch is going to hit the dirt." Seething with venomous rage, Mara hissed, "You insignificant roach! What kind of poetic garbage is that? I will strip the flesh straight off your bones." Flashing a bloody smirk, Street locked eyes with her. "Too late. You and your pathetic greed are about to get reduced to ashes." Shifting her gaze just past the monster, she smirked. "Ain't that right, Lord Ravis?" Because right at that exact second, the boss himself was standing dead center behind Mara. Caught in his mother's grotesque grip, Hansu choked out an apology. That absolute freak just inhaled the crimson mist and instantly hulked out. Mara's blood ran cold. There was no way this was actually happening. Her mind flashed back to the explosive blast. Was that weird smoke the actual trigger? Cut to Jaehee. Ducking behind a massive concrete pillar, a wicked smirk crept across her face. Thank God she secretly extracted the blood from Rava's original vessel. She originally planned to hoard it forever, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Bombay had dropped a major hint since his brand new physical form housed a super rare demon bloodstone right in its core. Absorbing his would unlock a massive chunk of his prime stats. So, she mentally urged him to embrace her little present and go absolutely berserk, just like the good old days. A single menacing horn ripped through the MC's forehead. He stretched his neck, grinning that it had been way too long since he felt this incredibly weightless. Mara spat a vicious curse, slamming her own kids as completely worthless trash. It was a 2-on-1 fight, yet they were still getting completely cooked. She flooded the grotesque umbilical cords attached to their spines with a massive surge of dark energy. Supercharged, the siblings violently ripped themselves out of Rava's iron grip. Wasting no time, Hansu whipped a heavy chain straight at him, practically drooling as he thanked his mom. Now he was going to slaughter this guy for sure. Right on cue, Hanyang twirled her twin blades and lunged for the kill. The siblings unleashed a brutal, perfectly synced combo attack, but the MC just effortlessly swatted them away like mere flies. Not backing down, Bera joined the bloodbath. Whipping out razor-sharp tentacles, she shrieked, demanding to know why a colossal fool would literally throw his life away for some random human. Especially when that girl wasn't even his actual blood sister. He flawlessly deflected her strike, flashing a dangerously calm smile, and casually replied that it was simply because the cake she baked was delicious. Utterly baffled, Mara stared at him, while he smoothly added that the sweet treat his little sister fed him didn't taste like this garbage human realm, it literally tasted like heaven. Hansu barked that he was spouting pure delusion. The guy was a literal demon from the Underworld, so why the hell was he yapping about heaven? Slowly unsheathing his massive blade, the MC tilted his head. Hanyang shrieked that he was completely psycho, snapping that she would rather smash a cake right into her stupid brother's face. In a blinding flash, the MC swung his sword, slicing a clean line straight across her hot blood violently splattered across his cheek. He lazily licked the crimson drops off his lips, but a split second later, his pupils blew wide open in sheer shock. A sudden flashback flooded his mind. Back when the siblings were just tiny kids, they desperately bent over backwards for Mara's validation. Little Han Yang once nervously approached her, proudly. Meanwhile, a young Hansu had just scrubbed the entire house spotless, quietly mumbling that his stomach was running on empty. But their mother, she was spitting venom. She branded her own flesh and blood as repulsive little parasites. She coldly barked at Hansu to just chug tap water if he was starving before heartlessly storming out the front door. She snapped that they were utterly worthless, leaving the kids totally crushed. Whether it was grinding through homework or scrubbing floors, absolutely nothing earned a single drop of validation from their mom. Flash forward to a random cafe run. A gorgeous chick was chilling right beside them, catching the eye of some guy trying to shoot his shot. Green with jealousy, Amara aggressively clicked her tongue, hissing at her kids that guys would be all over her too if she weren't dragged down by them. Just look at that plastic smile. It makes my blood boil. She muttered to Han Yang about how much mommy despised that idiot, and a twisted idea clicked in the little girl's head. She sprinted toward the target, staged a clumsy tumble, and tackled her straight on, launching her coffee everywhere. The drenched girl instantly exploded, spewing furious curses, while Mara rushed over, playing the ultimate concerned parent. "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" the furious victim shrieked. "Look at my fit. What am I supposed to wear now?" Snatching her daughter's hand, Mara fake apologized, promising to buy a replacement outfit. But the second they stepped outside, a wicked smirk stretched across her face. She scooped Han Yang into a massive hug, gushing over her genius. "Mommy loves you so much. Did you see that loser's face? Acting all high and mighty. And boom, she's a soggy mess." Han Yang was buzzing. That exact moment marked the very first time she felt her mother's approval. Naturally, Hansu craved that same hype, frantically begging his mom to let him step up next. "Put me in next time, I swear I'll wreck them." She nodded proudly, triggering a sick epiphany for Han Yang. Torment the exact people your mom envies, and you get showered with praise. Crush whoever gets under her skin, and you lock in her approval without a shadow of a doubt. Fast forward, and she was drenching her blade in crimson strictly to make mommy proud. Giggling like a maniac, she asked, "Can I kill 2 of them next time?" "Of course you can, sweetie," Mara cooed, wrapping her in a warm embrace. "Slay the targets," mommy points out, "and you earn her love." Witnessing this twisted flashback, the MC let out a dry chuckle, mocking her for winning Mom of the Year. Triggered Han Yang launched herself at him, screeching that he was dead meat. Hansu mirrored her psycho energy, roaring that he wanted first blood. Their mom just barked at them to wrap up the trash instantly. "Erase this clown from my vision now." As the twins charged, Rava readied his heavy blade, realizing this was the peak definition of pure demonic scum. In one blinding flash, his sword carved right through Hansu, cleanly severing his arm. Rava pivoted toward Mara with a chilling smirk, deciding she finally held enough value to earn a personal hands-on execution. Catching that predatory glare, absolute terror paralyzed her. He wasn't just a guy anymore. He was a bloodthirsty beast of the battlefield. Farkan, Hansu slammed into the ground, clutching his wrecked shoulder and screaming his lungs out. His sister just rolled her eyes, calling him a total idiot who should have watched his step. Hanyang launched herself at Ravis, but he effortlessly parried, shattering her blade into pieces. He flashed a mocking grin, questioning if that pathetic guy was actually her flesh and blood. No wonder she looked so stressed. Hansu totally lost his mind, screaming that she was a complete idiot and blaming her for this entire mess. She should have just handled the situation herself. Hanyang whipped around, totally ready to clap back, but the MC cut her off. Go ahead, waste him. Let this pathetic loser drop dead right now, or he would happily end her instead. She ground her teeth in pure fury. Our guy just smirked and swung his blade, hyping these fools up to keep destroying each other. Catching that deadly glint, pure terror flashed in Hanyang's eyes. She instantly knew her defenses were useless against that kind of power. So she literally yanked her own brother forward, using him as a human meat shield. The massive slash completely ripped into him, carving a brutal diagonal gash right across his chest. He collapsed to the floor, shrieking in absolute agony, crying about how incredibly bad it hurt. Crimson poured heavily from the open wound. He started freaking out, sobbing out for his mommy. Mara just clicked her tongue in pure disgust. Wow, what useless garbage, she muttered. She immediately barked at Hanyang, ordering her to ditch the whiny brat and keep pushing the offensive. Sparks flew as her weapon violently clashed against Ravis's sword. Meanwhile, Hansu could literally feel his life slipping away. Bleeding out on the cold floor, he choked out one last pathetic cry for his mother, begging her not to ditch him, right before his eyes rolled back. But Mara literally couldn't care less about her own kid. She violently lashed her tentacles forward to back up Hanyang, screaming at her to finally execute this guy and end his annoying resistance. The MC desperately swatted the slimy appendages away. He thought he had the upper hand, but Mara was dangerously close to taking full possession. If the clock kept ticking down like this, Minya would be absolutely impossible to save. He had zero clue how much more damage his current physical vessel could actually tank. But it was time to gamble. Without flinching, he grabbed the raw edge of her blade with his bare hand and violently yanked her close. He forced her head back, totally exposing her neck. Then, he ruthlessly sank his fangs right into her flesh. She unleashed a blood-curdling scream as he aggressively drained her life force. He locked dead, glowing eyes with her demonic mother. Panic suddenly washed over Mara's face. She was totally clueless about his endgame. The second he pulled back, Hanyang dropped to the floor like a puppet with cuts. He coiled his muscles, preparing to launch himself. By gorging on that blood and pushing his current vessel to its absolute limit, he had basically unlocked an instant massive power-up. Surging with chaotic energy, he blitzed straight at Mara. Freaking out, she instantly unleashed a massive wave of tentacles, screeching at him to stay the hell away. But our guy didn't even flinch, shredding the slimy limbs into confetti with a few blindingly fast sword swings. Closing the distance rapidly, he sent her into full-blown panic mode. Firing off another desperate barrage of dark appendages, she completely lost it. "Why won't you just die already?" she shrieked. His blade moved like a blur, aggressively hacking through the onslaught. But internally, he could literally feel his physical form threatening to crumble into dust. It was way too much. His muscles screamed like they were being shredded alive, but honestly, this chaotic moment was exactly what he was waiting for. Smashing violently through her last line of defense, he materialized right behind her and ruthlessly severed the demonic umbilical cord. Mara snapped her head around, shrieking in pure disbelief. "Are you seriously trying to ruin everything at the final sec?" Before she could even react, Ravis locked his grip around her throat, violently slammed her down against the concrete, and mercilessly choked her out. She let out this incredibly agonizing screech, desperately begging him to unhand her. Panting heavily, he just stared down at her. "It's game over," he growled. Her pathetic, twisted existence had finally hit a brick wall. She wailed that she absolutely refused to die, especially not to some low-tier punk like him. So, he dropped one final ultimatum. If she willingly evacuated Minha's body right this second, he would actually let her walk. Her eyes went wide with sheer disbelief. "Are you completely serious?" she gasped. He deadass confirmed it, even swearing upon the sacred honor of his own father, the legendary D. Suddenly it clicked for her. This fool was totally terrified that she would just self-destruct and take the girl's body down with her. A wicked, twisted grin crept across her face. Sure, it was a total bummer to ditch such a high-quality vessel, but survival was top priority. She boldly announced that someone with the legendary Demon King's blood running through their veins would never cap about family honor. So, she demanded he drop his weapon first. If he played ball, she would totally comply. I mean, she was completely cornered anyway. Instantly, the glowing blood sword in his grip shattered into thin air. He released his iron grip, commanding her to evacuate the host. She furrowed her brows, totally faking compliance for a split second, before a sly smirk flashed across her face. Boom! Her spirit form aggressively launched straight out of Minha's mouth, lunging right at his face, while calling him a gullible moron. But honestly, in a flash his arm morphed into its terrifying demonic form, snatching Mara right out of the air. Completely blindsided, she froze as he mockingly asked, "Wait, you're literally one of the 12 Dark Barons and you fell for that weak bait?" Not gonna lie, he actually had zero clue how to force her out of Minha's body otherwise. Realizing she had been completely played, she started screaming and dropping massive curses in pure, unfiltered rage. "Wait, "What happened to swearing on your precious father's honor?" she screeched. He ruthlessly started yanking her true form out of the girl, coolly replying that he only cared about keeping his own honor intact. She flailed wildly, begging him to unhand her, screaming that she refused to be evicted. He just flashed an icy smirk, mocking how incredibly pathetic she looked right now. With one brutal yank, he ripped the absolute last traces of the parasite out, leaving Mina to collapse unconscious on the floor. Stripped of her host, Mara frantically whipped her slimy tentacles around, absolutely trembling. As she dropped to her knees, pleading to do absolutely anything he wanted. Right then, she caught Hanyang out of the corner of her eye, stumbling up and gripping the blade. Trembling from sheer exhaustion, she pushed forward while Mara cheered inside her head, hyping her up to slaughter this fool right now. Hanyang hoisted the heavy steel high above her skull. Our boy caught the movement and spun around, but honestly, he didn't even have to lift a finger. Shink Hansu shoved his blade straight through his own sister's back. He choked out that she was playing dirty, trying to steal all the glory for herself one last time. No way was he letting that slide. Drained of his final drop of energy, he crumpled to the cold tiles, a twisted grin plastered on his face. His sister gasped her dying breath and slumped down right beside him. Mara's precious kids were wiped out, but the demon didn't shed a single tear. Instead, she shrieked like a banshee, calling him a useless failure for blowing their ultimate shot. Ravis just scoffed, pointing out how the kid literally cried out for his mommy, over and over, only to bite the dust in the most pathetic way possible. Panicking, Mara went right back to groveling, swearing she would leave the girl alone and just hop into a fresh vessel. She frantically claimed she and his mom used to be super tight, practically besties. She swore it was the absolute truth. "Go on, ask her." She babbled about how well she treated his mother. Citri cringed in pure disgust, snapping that her literal offspring just dropped dead. And yet she was only stressing over her own skin. Like, was she even a real parent? Mara just shrugged it off, spitting that demons could breed as many brats as they wanted before aggressively trying to sweet-talk Ravis again. Ravis brutally hacked off her final tentacle in a flash. She choked and gasped as her ugly head hit the dirt. Our guy just smirked, mocking the so-called legendary rep of the mighty 12 Dark Barons. Mara tried to spit out some final words, but choked on a pathetic gurgle instead. Inside, she was boiling. How dare he embarrass her like this? Inez's annoying brat ruined everything. She refused to take the L. She was gonna rip him apart. Too little, too late. His boot crushed down on her skull, popping it into a gross puddle of mush. He watched the gooey mess pool over the concrete. Before Mara's raw demonic aura swirled up and rushed straight into his eye, juicing his body with insane levels of fresh power. He let out a long breath, stoked that this nightmare was completely wrapped up. Citri strolled over, praising him for finally securing the bag. Flexing his demon arm, he felt the crazy adrenaline rush. This was the aura of a top-tier Dark Baron, and the energy was literally overflowing. Whipping a handkerchief from his pocket, he smashed it over his nose to block out the garbage smell. Complaining about the nasty stench and sighing over what a massive waste of time this was, Citri glanced down at the lifeless twins with total pity, wondering if things would have been chill with their real mom if Mara hadn't crashed the human realm. He just shrugged, saying they would never know for sure. Even without demons pulling the strings, toxic parents ruin lives every single day. Meanwhile, Jahi sneaked a peek from behind a massive pillar. She was smiling to herself since the mission was a total dub. It was officially time to bounce. But Ravis snapped his neck in her direction and called her out. She completely freaked out and ducked behind cover. He groaned, yelling that he literally just saw her and to drag herself out. Looking totally busted, she shyly begged him, and to act like she was completely invisible. He let out the heaviest sigh, dropping her real name, Beltia. Citri's jaw hit the floor in pure shock. She gasped, realizing this was Beltia, the legendary blacksmith with major clout back in the Underworld, the spoiled youngest daughter of the Murtano clan. Showered in endless hype and royal treatment, she was the one and only Lady Beltia, hyped up as a once-in-3,000 years weapon, forging prodigy. Our boy rolled his eyes, demanding to know why she was stalking him. She popped out from her hiding spot, awkwardly explaining that Bombi hyped her up as a special present just for Lord Ravis. Since the surprise prank worked perfectly, she yelled that it was time to dip. With a quick leap, she vaulted out the window and ghosted them. Citri just stared at the empty space, totally stunned, muttering how Beltia was the most chaotic, stuck-up noble girl in the realm, secretly known as Ravis's #1 fangirl stalker. But wait, her face looked exactly like Jinjahi, right? He ground his teeth in hardcore annoyance, figuring out exactly what that absolute moron Bonbi did. The idiot straight up shoved Beltia's soul into Jinjahi's physical body. This whole situation was getting way too messy. He cursed under his breath, swearing that the second they warped back to the demon world, he was going to toss Bombi right over to her, letting her bully him to her heart's content. She blinked in total surprise, once playing shy to be polite, saying she would never cross that line. But then she purred, asking how long she could keep him. He smirked, telling her she'd own him forever. Cut back to Varkon, who was absolutely losing his mind, hyping up the drama to his sister. He practically squealed about how shocked he was, watching his nephew ruthlessly slurp up her blood like a total savage. He really was a chip off the old block. She frowned, calling the whole thing way too brutal, but she immediately demanded the tea on what Ravis did next. Varkin grinned, explaining how he used that stolen juice to slice her tentacles and literally stomp her skull in, and just went totally unhinged. He covered his eyes dramatically, waving his hands like the gore was just way too intense to keep describing. A chilling smirk crept onto her face as she fake-pitied poor little Mara. He caught her expression, teasing that if she was actually thrilled by the violence, she should just own it instead of fighting back that creepy little smile. Super annoyed, she snapped that she totally wasn't enjoying it at all. She demanded he stop using Ravis as a pawn in his twisted little games. Taking out Mara after she bolted to the human realm was already pushing it. Thanks to her useless son chilling in the human world, she hasn't caught a single moment of peace. He casually pointed out the tea she was sipping came straight from the Reuter bloodline. Rumor had it that stuff was crazy rare and top. Up until that second, she'd been sipping it without a care in the world. Taking another slow gulp, she fired back that his little fun fact literally had zero to do with their argument. Chuckling, he threw his hands up, claiming it was just a joke. Plus, now that Ravis had finally unlocked his true terrifying power, she had absolutely zero reason to stress. He told her to just take a breath and enjoy the brew. But her eyes narrowed into a lethal, suspicious glare as she demanded answers. What exactly were he? Banbei and Gamut here cooking up behind her back. Sweating bullets, he instantly panicked, swearing on his life that the great Demon King was completely clueless. She wasn't buying it, snapping back, asking if he seriously thought Banbei could casually shove a bloodstone into Ravis without the king catching on. All of a sudden it clicked. Her eyes practically popped out of her skull as she leaped to her feet and shrieked. Were they really planning to use her son as bait to hunt down Morgath? When he happily nodded like it was a genius idea, she completely snapped, tackling him to the floor and wrapping her hands around his throat. Screaming bloody murder, she threatened to end him right then and there. Hacking and coughing, he desperately choked out that Ravis was the one begging to go after him. How could a loving uncle possibly say no to his nephew's dying wish? Furious, she literally sank her teeth straight into his flesh. She growled that she should have completely wiped him off the map 1,000 years ago, while he just shrieked in absolute agony. Meanwhile, completely unfazed Banbei was just chilling on the sidelines, sipping his tea like nothing was happening. Giving the brawling siblings a side-eye, he mused over the old saying that brothers and sisters were literally mortal enemies from a past life who prayed for each other's downfall, only to be cursed to respawn and deal with each other all over again. Setting his teacup down, his thoughts shifted to Morgath, the absolute ruler of death itself. This guy was the literal god of destruction, completely erasing everything from existence. Once his lethal wind of death swept through the heavens, the demon realm and the human world would be snuffed out like candles one by one. Morgath was a ruthless mastermind, obsessed with totally devouring the human dimension, just to reconstruct the demon empire from scratch. Wherever that psycho was hiding right now, he just needed to wait a second longer. Ravis was already locked in and hunting him down. Cut back to our boy Ravis, who had finally dragged Mina back home and safely dropped her onto her bed. Watching over her unconscious body for a beat, he sent a mental shout-out to Minho, telling the guy that his debt for hijacking this mortal vessel was officially paid in full. But right on cue, the bedroom door practically flew off its hinges, and Taesik barged in screaming. He yelled that she was supposed to be grinding at the training center, demanding to know what the hell she was doing, slacking off in bed. Juhi rushed over, absolute panic in her eye, demanding to know what went down. Our boy played it off, dropping a quick lie about taking a nasty spill during rehearsal, but Taesik totally flipped out. He started screaming, furious that someone let a future superstar get wrecked like this. Was this our guy's fault? Were they secretly plotting to ruin his reputation? Juhi gasped, totally horrified that he had even suggested that. But Taesik just fired back, bringing up how both of them hated the idea of Mina debuting as an idol in the first place. Whenever Mina went viral online and all the comments hyped him up as a great dad. Was this their twisted revenge because they couldn't stand seeing him get all the glory? Then he spun around, barking at his assistant to whip out a phone and snap a photo of her bruised state. He planned to spin the whole stalker narrative to farm maximum clout and pity points from the public. Seriously, Ravis glared at the guy, absolutely disgusted, and honestly thought this clown had fully snapped. Our guy was this close to ripping him a new one, but Juhi completely beat him to the punch. She exploded, screaming at Taesik to knock it off. Was he seriously blind to the agonizing pain their kid was in? He shot her a lethal glare, but she stood her ground. She confessed that back in the day she genuinely thought that he would step up and be a real father figure to them. But the second her own dad passed away, this guy sank his greedy claws into her massive inheritance and milked all her elite family connections just to boost his political campaign. And since that wasn't enough to feed his ego, he was now exploiting Mina. She was officially done playing nice. Taesik roared back, throwing it in her face that he played the hero for a messy woman who was hopelessly obsessed with some broke, literally ditched her family just to pop out kids. Did she conveniently forget how her own father practically begged on his knees for Taesik to save them and swore endless loyalty? He spat that she completely ruined her ex's life, and now she was just projecting all her toxic baggage onto him. He called the whole family a bunch of ungrateful leeches. Watching this meltdown, our guy mentally gagged. Every single word spilling from this dude's mouth was pure garbage. Could you even call this walking piece of trash a human being? Ravis was officially out of patience. It seriously sucked that permanently silencing someone was a straight-up crime in the human world, but honestly, snapping a few of his ribs felt totally. But out of nowhere, Juhee savagely called him a pathetic dirtbag and commanded him to shut his mouth. Ravis blinked, completely stunned by her sudden boss energy, and Taesik looked like he was about to pop a blood vessel, screaming about what she just dared to say. Juhee fired right back, admitting she only swallowed her pride and stayed for the kid. She absolutely refused to hand them another traumatizing heartbreak. There was zero chance she'd let them lose a father figure twice. And this absolute fraud actually thought he could run for mayor. It was the biggest joke of the century. Taesik gritted his teeth, hissing that this crazy woman had completely lost her grip on reality. But she just stared him dead in the eye and declared her puppet era officially over. From this second forward, she was destined to be the iron grip crushing his windpipe. Taking a deep shuddering breath, our MC forced his racing pulse to steady. He used to completely write her off as just some fragile pushover, but staring at her now, she radiated the Taesik was absolutely seething, shaking with a blind, explosive rage. But completely powerless to actually fight back, he just threw his head back and unleashed a gut-wrenching, agonizing roar. Cut to deep in the Middle East at Fort Valkyrie, a literal demon had just finished completely wiping out the entire garrison. It was the monster casually inspected the high-tech command console, poking at it like a shiny new toy. Tilting his head, he flashed a twisted smirk. So, choking on absolute sheer panic, the lone survivor begged, his voice violently cracking in terror. "No, please, whatever you do."